What do you do when your own sister humiliates you at her wedding after you sacrificed everything to make it perfect for her? My name is Anna Turner, 28 years old, and I run a small but successful event planning business that I've built from the ground up. You might think that attending my sister Bella's wedding would be a joyful and proud moment for me, especially considering that I plan weddings for a living. But that night turned into one of the most painful experiences of my life. Let me tell you how it all went down. Bella, my older sister, is 30 and has always been the golden child in our family. Growing up, she was the one everyone admired, beautiful, confident, and popular. I, on the other hand, was the quiet one, blending into the background. My parents always seemed to shower more attention on Bella's achievements, leaving me to feel invisible most of the time. But I never let it affect me. I worked harder, saved my money, and built a life for myself without anyone's help. When Bella got engaged to Chris, she immediately set her sights on a lavish wedding, one far beyond her means. I found out from our mom that Bella had maxed out her credit cards and had no savings left to cover the big event. Although my parents were well off, they couldn't help her much with the expenses. At that point, I should have walked away. But family loyalty and love for my sister got the better of me. Without telling anyone, I secretly paid for most of the wedding. I covered the venue, catering, flowers, and even the designer dress Bella wore that day. I thought I was doing something selfless, something she would appreciate. How wrong I was. The ceremony was beautiful, and everything went smoothly at first. Guests were dancing, laughing, and enjoying the fancy appetizers. I felt so proud, knowing I had made it all happen. But then came the moment that shattered everything. Bella stood in the middle of the ballroom, glowing in her white gown, surrounded by her friends. I was walking over to congratulate her when she spotted me. Her smile instantly faded, replaced by a scowl. "What are you doing here, Chloe?" she sneered, her voice loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. I froze, confused. "I'm just here to congratulate you." She rolled her eyes. "I don't need you here ruining my special day. You've done enough, just leave." My cheeks flushed as I heard the whispers around us. Guests turned their heads, their curious eyes piercing through me like daggers. I felt my chest tighten. I wanted to say something, to explain myself, but the words wouldn't come. Bella's voice grew louder. "Get out of here! I can't stand you being here for another second." I stood there, stunned, unable to believe that my own sister was humiliating me in front of everyone, on a day I had worked so hard to make perfect for her. Tears welled up in my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction. Without a word, I turned and walked out of the ballroom, the sound of whispers and laughter echoing behind me like a storm cloud. Once I reached the parking lot, I let the tears flow. Sitting in my car, I sobbed uncontrollably as everything I'd sacrificed hit me all at once: my time, my money, my pride. And this was how she repaid me. But in that moment, something inside me snapped. I wasn't going to let her get away with this. I pulled out my phone, logged into my bank account, and canceled all the pending payments for the wedding expenses. The balance left for the caterers, photographers, and venue? Gone. Bella wanted me out of her wedding? Fine. But she had no idea what was about to happen next. With a deep breath, I wiped my tears and drove home. Tomorrow, I thought, the real chaos would begin. The next morning, I woke up to a dozen missed calls and text messages from my mom, dad, and Bella. My phone kept buzzing nonstop. I rolled over in bed, debating whether I should ignore them or face the storm head-on. After everything Bella had said, I didn't feel like talking, but I also knew my silence would only make things worse. Finally, I sighed and picked up my phone. I scrolled through the messages, each one angrier than the last. Mom: "Chloe, what did you do? The wedding was a disaster after you left." Dad: "We need to talk immediately. Call me." Bella: "You ruined everything. Everything. I'll never forgive you." I rubbed my temples and groaned. Good, I thought. Let her be mad. She deserved every bit of it. I wasn't the villain here, and I wasn't about to let them paint me as one. Just as I was getting out of bed, my doorbell rang. I threw on a sweatshirt and went to answer it, expecting a package delivery or a neighbor. But when I opened the door, I saw Bella standing there in her wedding dress, makeup smeared and hair a tangled mess. "What do you want?" I asked, folding my arms across my chest. She barged past me without waiting for an invitation. "You have some nerve!" she shouted, her heels clicking furiously against the floor. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" I shut the door and turned to face her. "Yes, I do. I stopped paying for your wedding after you humiliated me in front of everyone." Bella's eyes widened in shock. "You're joking." "Nope," I said, leaning against the wall. "The caterers packed up and left because they didn't get their final payment. The photographers stopped taking pictures, and the venue owner was probably waiting to kick everyone out the minute the clock struck midnight." "You're insane," she yelled, pacing back and forth. Pacing. Do you know how embarrassing that was for me? The guests had no food, no music, and no photographer to capture the rest of the night. I smirked. Sounds like a disaster. But that's not my problem anymore. Bella's face turned a deep shade of red, her anger practically radiating from her. "You're my sister. You were supposed to help me, not ruin everything," she spat. I took a step closer, narrowing my eyes at her. "I did help you. I paid for your entire wedding without you even knowing because you couldn't afford it. And how do you repay me? By throwing me out like I'm some unwanted guest." My voice was steady, but the anger simmering underneath was unmistakable. She opened her mouth to retort but hesitated. For a brief moment, I thought I saw a flicker of guilt in her eyes, but it vanished just as quickly as it came. "You should have kept your mouth shut and finished what you started," she muttered bitterly. "Not a chance," I shot back, my voice firm. "You've taken advantage of me for the last time." Just then, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I glanced at the screen. It was a call from Mom. With a sigh, I answered. "Chloe, what's going on between you and Bella? You need to fix this," Mom said, her voice sharp with concern. "The family is falling apart right now." "I'm not fixing anything," I replied, my voice resolute. "Bella made her choice when she kicked me out of the wedding. Now she can clean up her own mess." "Don't be selfish," Mom snapped. "You've always been the responsible one. You can't just abandon your sister like this." I clenched my fist around the phone, my frustration boiling over. Selfish? I've spent my entire life being the responsible one. I've picked up the pieces of her mistakes, sacrificed my time, my money, everything. But this time, I'm done. Bella can fix her own problems. I hung up before Mom could say another word. Bella stood there speechless, her mouth hanging open. "You're really not going to help, are you?" she whispered, her voice tinged with disbelief. "No," I said coldly, my gaze unwavering. "And here's some advice. Next time you think about humiliating someone, make sure they're not the one paying your bills." Without waiting for a response, I walked to the door, opening it wide. She hesitated for a moment, then stormed out, slamming the door behind her with such force that the whole house seemed to shake. Later that day, I tried to move on from the disaster of the wedding. I focused on my own things, hoping to forget the nightmare of that day. Just as I was about to settle in for a quiet evening, my phone buzzed again. This time, my heart skipped a beat when I saw the message. It was from Chris, Bella's new husband. "Chris, we need to talk. I found out something about Bella, and you're not going to believe it." My pulse quickened. What could he have discovered? Had Bella been hiding something even worse than her financial mess? My gut told me this wasn't just about a ruined wedding. This was something much bigger. Taking a deep breath, I replied, "I'm listening." Within minutes, my phone buzzed again, this time with an incoming call. I hesitated for a moment, my mind racing with possibilities, before I finally answered. "Hello?" "Chloe, it's worse than you think," Chris said, his voice low and serious. "I didn't know who else to call. Can we meet in person?" My stomach nodded. "Yes, sure. Where?" "Coffee shop on Maple Street. In an hour," he replied. I agreed, hung up, and quickly changed into something presentable. As I grabbed my keys and stepped outside, my mind raced. What could be so bad that Chris had to reach out to me, his wife's sister, the day after their wedding? An hour later, I walked into the small coffee shop, scanning the room until I saw Chris sitting at a corner table. His normally confident posture was replaced by slumped shoulders and a tired expression. As I approached, he looked up and gestured for me to sit. "Thanks for coming," he said, rubbing his temples. "What's going on, Chris? What did you find out?" I asked, leaning in. He let out a heavy sigh. "Last night, after the chaos at the wedding, I went back to the hotel alone. Bella stayed behind to deal with her family, but something felt off. I couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't being honest with me. So, I did something I probably shouldn't have." I raised an eyebrow. "What did you do?" "I went through her laptop," he admitted. "I found emails, bank statements, and, well, let's just say Bella has been hiding a lot more than her financial problems." "What did you find?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Chris pulled out his phone and slid it across the table. On the screen was a series of screenshots. As I scrolled through them, my eyes widened in shock. Bella had been using my money, the money I had sent to vendors for her wedding, to pay off personal debts and fund extravagant purchases, designer clothes, luxury vacations, spa treatments, all while pretending to be broke. "She drained almost everything you paid," Chris said. "That's why the vendors didn't get their final payments. She spent it before they could claim it." I felt a wave of nausea. "So she knew all along. She never needed my help, did she?" "Not at first," Chris admitted. "But once the payments started coming in, she saw it as an opportunity to splurge. She figured you wouldn't find out because you always clean up her messes." I clenched my fists under the table, trying to keep my composure. "I can't believe this. After everything I did for her, she used me." Chris nodded grimly. "It gets worse. I also found messages between Bella and a guy named David." My heart dropped to my stomach. David. My ex. The one who had cheated on me. "What do you mean? What were they talking about?" Chris's jaw tightened, his frustration clear. "Bella invited him to the wedding behind your back. She wanted to set up some kind of accidental reunion. I think she thought it would be funny to watch you squirm." I felt like I couldn't breathe. The betrayal hit me harder than I expected. My own sister, not only had she stolen my money, but she had also tried to humiliate me by bringing my cheating ex to my wedding. "She's been lying to everyone, Chloe," Chris said softly, his voice filled with regret. "And now, I don't know what to do. I married someone I barely know." I sat in stunned silence, processing everything. Bella's betrayal was deeper than I could have imagined. But I knew one thing for sure: she wasn't going to get away with it. "I know exactly what to do," I said, my voice steely with determination. "I'm going to expose her." That night, I sat down at my desk, determined to take action. I gathered every financial document I had related to the wedding receipts, canceled payments, proof of Bella's excessive spending. I even included the screenshots of the messages Chris had found. When I had everything in order, I sent it all to a lawyer friend of mine, hoping to build a case for financial fraud. The next step was dealing with my parents. I knew they would defend Bella, but this time I had the upper hand. The following morning, I showed up at my parents' house unannounced. My mom opened the door, a frown appearing on her face as she saw me standing there. "Chloe, what are you doing here?" "We need to talk," I said, brushing past her into the living room. Bella was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone with that usual look of annoyance. My dad sat in his recliner, sipping his coffee. Bella didn't look up at first, but then rolled her eyes. "Oh, great. What now? Did you come to ruin more things?" I smiled, holding up the thick folder of evidence. "Actually, I came to ruin your lies." Bella's smirk faltered as I dropped the folder onto the coffee table. What is this? Proof that you stole my money to pay off your debts and fund your shopping spree, I said calmly. And before you deny it, I already sent copies to my lawyer. My mom gasped, grabbing the folder and flipping through the documents. Bella, is this true? Bella stammered, her face draining of color. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I just needed help. I cut her off, my voice cold. You didn't need help, you took advantage of me. And if you think I'm going to let this slide, think again. My lawyer will be in touch. Bella looked like she was about to say something more, but the words failed her. My mom, still in shock, stood frozen, the weight of the truth settling in. I turned to leave without another word, knowing this was just the beginning. My dad stood up, glaring at Bella. You did this? After all the help Chloe gave you? Bella burst into tears. I didn't think she'd find out. I thought I could fix everything before it got this bad. I shook my head. It's too late for that. You made your choices. As I turned to leave, Bella grabbed my arm. Please, Chloe, don't take this to court. I'll pay you back. I'll do anything. I pulled my arm free. You should have thought about that before you lied to me. With that, I walked out the door, leaving her sobbing in the living room. Later that week, I filed a formal complaint with my lawyer and began the process of taking legal action. Bella's wedding disaster had been only the beginning. What she didn't know was that the money she owed me wasn't the only thing at stake. Her reputation, her marriage, and her future were all about to crumble. I wasn't the quiet, forgiving sister anymore. I was the sister who was done being taken for granted, and I was ready to make sure Bella learned her lesson the hard way. A week later, the legal papers were served. Bella's reaction was exactly what I expected. More tears, angry phone calls, and desperate pleas for forgiveness. But this time, I didn't pick up. I was done listening to her empty promises. Instead, I stayed focused on the legal process. My lawyer assured me that the evidence we had, canceled payments, bank transfers, and screenshots of her personal purchases, would be enough to hold Bella accountable in court. The charges weren't just financial. Bella had committed fraud by misusing funds intended for legitimate purposes. Her husband, Chris, had already moved out of their apartment after discovering her lies. The wedding disaster and financial betrayal were too much for him. The last I heard, he had filed for an annulment, claiming he had been deceived about her financial situation before their marriage. Even my parents couldn't defend her anymore. I overheard them arguing on the phone one night, my mom crying as she blamed herself for raising Bella to believe she could do no wrong. But the most satisfying moment came when Bella herself finally broke. A few days before the court hearing, she showed up at my doorstep. This time she wasn't dressed in designer clothes. She looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes, her hair unkempt. She wasn't the proud, spoiled sister I had known. She was desperate. Chloe, she whispered, her voice cracking. Please, can we talk? I stepped aside, letting her in. She sat on the couch, her hands trembling as she clutched her purse. I've lost everything, she said, tears streaming down her face. Chris is gone, Mom and Dad won't even look at me, and now I'm going to lose in court. I can't fix this on my own. For a moment, I felt a flicker of sympathy, but then I reminded myself of the humiliation Bella had put me through, and the years of manipulation I had endured. What do you expect me to do, Bella? I asked, crossing my arms. She sobbed harder, her voice breaking. I don't know. I'm sorry, Chloe. I know I've been horrible to you. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but please, don't ruin my life completely. I sighed deeply and sat down across from her, studying her. Bella, I didn't ruin your life. You did that all on your own. All I'm doing is holding you accountable for your actions. She wiped her tears and nodded in agreement. I know, and I'm willing to pay you back every penny. Please, just don't let this go to court. If it becomes public, I'll never recover. I sat there for what felt like an eternity, contemplating. I could take the easy route, let the case proceed, knowing it would destroy Bella's reputation. or I could offer her a chance to make things right. After everything she'd done, I was torn between seeking revenge or finding closure. Finally, I spoke. If you're serious about fixing this, here's what I want. You'll pay me back every cent you owe with interest. You'll work for me in my event planning company until the debt is paid off. No special treatment, no shortcuts. Bella's eyes widened in disbelief. Work for you? Yes, I replied firmly. You'll see what it's like to work hard and earn your way, and if you ever try to take advantage of me again, the court case is back on the table. She nodded slowly, her face filled with determination. I'll do it. I'll do whatever it takes. The next few months were a whirlwind. Bella started working with me as an assistant, handling errands, making calls, and dealing with the stress of the job I had managed on my own for years. She didn't complain, at least not to my face. It was clear to me that the experience was humbling her in ways nothing else ever had before. During this time, I also reconnected with my lawyer friend, who had been incredibly supportive throughout the ordeal. He helped me set up a legally binding repayment plan with Bella, ensuring she followed through on her commitment. Chris finalized the annulment and moved on with his life, leaving Bella to deal with the consequences of her actions. My parents, while still distant, were slowly beginning to forgive her. As for me, I felt lighter than I had in years. I wasn't burdened by Bella's manipulation or my family's expectations anymore. I had taken control of my life, and it felt good. 1 year later, I stood in my office overlooking the city skyline, reflecting on how much had changed. My business had grown, and I had expanded into corporate events and charity galas. Bella had worked hard to repay her debt and was now starting to rebuild her life. She walked into my office, holding a file of client contracts. "Here's everything you asked for," she said, her tone polite but cautious. "Thanks," I replied, taking the file. Before she left, she paused at the door. "Chloe, I just wanted to say thank you for giving me a second chance." I smiled faintly, feeling a mix of emotions. "Just don't waste it." She nodded and left the room, leaving me alone with my thoughts. I had been through betrayal, heartbreak, and humiliation, but I had come out stronger. This time, I wasn't just the quiet, overlooked sister. I was the sister who stood up for herself, and I would never let anyone take advantage of me again. How do you react when your own sister betrays you after everything you've done for her? And what do you do when you realize the person you've helped the most is the one who's taken advantage of you the most? Anna's story is one of betrayal, resilience, and standing up for what's right. As a successful event planner, Anna poured her time, money, and heart into making her sister Bella's wedding perfect. But when Bella humiliated Anna publicly, everything changed. Anna, who had always been the responsible and forgiving sister, finally snapped. Instead of caving to Bella's manipulative demands, Anna took control of the situation, exposing Bella's financial misdeeds and holding her accountable for the lies and betrayal. Anna's decision to expose Bella wasn't just about money. It was about reclaiming her dignity and not letting her sister continue to take advantage of her kindness. It's easy to justify helping family, but Anna realized that sometimes the people closest to us can be the most toxic. Bella's financial fraud and her attempt to humiliate Anna weren't just mistakes. They were calculated actions that left Anna with no choice but to take drastic measures. In the end, Anna's strength wasn't just about standing up to Bella, but about finding her voice and no longer letting others define her. Do you think Anna did the right thing by taking legal action and holding Bella accountable? How would you have handled a similar situation with your family? If you've ever been taken advantage of, remember this: it's never too late to take back control of your life. Like, subscribe, and share your thoughts. Have you ever had to stand up to family in order to protect your own well-being?
The note fell from Ethan's jacket pocket as I was gathering laundry. A small square of cream-colored paper that didn't belong among the receipts and business cards. My fingers trembled as I unfolded it, revealing elegant handwriting I didn't recognize. Same time tomorrow. Our spot. C. I stood frozen in our walk-in closet, surrounded by the familiar scent of Ethan's cologne and pressed shirts. The morning light streaming through our bedroom windows suddenly felt harsh, exposing. 3 simple sentences had transformed our carefully ordered world into something uncertain and threatening. My phone buzzed. A text from Tessa. "Mom, forgot my calc book. Can you bring it to school?" I tucked the note into my pocket and grabbed my keys. The drive to Tessa's high school gave me time to think, to replay the subtle changes in Ethan's behavior over the past few months. The late meetings, the weekend conferences, the new cologne. Tessa was waiting by the school entrance, her dark hair pulled into a messy bun, wearing one of Ethan's old college sweatshirts. "You're a lifesaver," she said, reaching for the textbook. "Dad's taking me shopping after school. Wanna come? I have patience until 6. I forced a smile, noting how easily she mentioned these father-daughter outings that had become more frequent lately. "Maybe next time." "Whatever." She shrugged, already turning away. "Oh, hey, don't wait up tonight. We might grab dinner too." I watched her disappear into the crowd of students, remembering when she used to tell me everything. Now she's saved her secrets for Ethan, and I wondered how many of his she kept in return. Back at my dermatology practice, I struggled to focus on patient consultations. Between appointments, I found myself staring at my phone, thumb hovering over a contact I hadn't called in years. Nolan Pierce.
Dr.
Mercer? My assistant's voice startled me. "Your 2 o'clock is ready." I put my phone away, but the thought of Nolan, now a private investigator, lingered. We'd stayed loosely connected through social media, enough for me to know he specialized in domestic cases. The kind of cases I never thought I'd need help with. That evening, I prepared dinner alone, the kitchen radio filling the silence. A text from Ethan lit up my phone. "Running late with Tess. Don't hold dinner." I picked up the note again, studying the precise loops of the C. Celeste, maybe? There was a Celeste at his marketing firm. Young, ambitious, the director's daughter. I'd met her at the holiday party last December, noticed how she touched Ethan's arm when she laughed at his jokes. The house phone rang, startling me. It was Ethan's mother. "Lila, dear, I'm just confirming you're both coming to dinner Sunday? I'm making Ethan's favorite pot roast." "Of course," I said, my voice steady despite the acid churning in my stomach. "We wouldn't miss it. And how's my son? Working too hard as usual." I stared at the note on the counter. You know Ethan, always giving everything his all. After hanging up, I pulled out my phone again and typed a message to Nolan. "Need to discuss something confidential. Coffee tomorrow." His response came quickly. "Usual place?"
8 Uhr morgens.
I sent back a simple yes and deleted our exchange. Then I opened my calendar and moved my morning appointments, creating a window of time that didn't officially exist. Just like the note that didn't officially exist. Just like the growing space between Ethan and me that nobody else could see. Upstairs, I stood in our closet again, running my hands over Ethan's suits, wondering which one he'd worn when he wrote his response to C. Wondering how many other notes had passed between them, how many secrets were hidden in the pockets of our life together. Nolan hadn't changed much since high school. Same watchful eyes, same quiet intensity. He stirred his coffee methodically while I explained about the note, Ethan's late nights, and Tessa's sudden devotion to her father. "When did you first notice the changes?" he asked, his voice neutral, professional. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A text from Tessa, staying at Dad's office after school. "He's teaching me about marketing stuff. Don't wait up." I showed Nolan the message. "This is new. She used to hate visiting his office." "Does she mention anyone specific at work? Besides Ethan?" The question made me pause. "She talked about meeting some of his colleagues last month. Said they were cool, not stuffy like she expected." My coffee had grown cold. "She mentioned someone named Celeste." Nolan's expression didn't change, but he wrote something in his small notebook. "I'll need a few days to look into things. Try to maintain your normal routine." Normal routine.
Right.
Like preparing dinner for 3 when only one would show up. Like pretending not to notice Ethan's fresh dry cleaning when he claimed to be working late. That evening, I heard Tessa before I saw her, her laughter floating up the driveway as Ethan's car pulled in. When they entered the kitchen, she was wearing a new leather jacket. "Mom, look what Dad got me." She twirled, the jacket catching the light. "Isn't it amazing?" "It's gorgeous," I said, noting how Ethan avoided my eyes. "Special occasion?" "Just because," Ethan replied, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. "She's been helping out at the office, showing real talent for the business." "Really?" I kept my voice light. "I thought you wanted to study art, Tess." Tessa's expression hardened. "People change, Mom. Maybe I want to do both." "Both is good." Ethan jumped in, placing a hand on Tessa's shoulder. "Actually, there's an industry event this weekend. I thought Tessa might come along, see how it all works." "This weekend?"
I set down the dish I was drying.
"But it's your grandmother's birthday dinner."
Oh,
Tessa looked at Ethan. "I forgot about that." "We can do both," he said quickly. "The event's in the afternoon. We'll make it to dinner." I watched them exchange glances, their silent communication excluding me completely. "Who else will be at this event?" "Just colleagues," Ethan said. "The usual crowd." "Including Celeste?" The name dropped like a stone between us. Tessa's shoulders tensed. Ethan's hand fell away from her. "Among others," he said carefully.
why?
"Just curious about who's mentoring our daughter." Tessa yanked off the leather jacket. "God, Mom, why do you have to make everything weird? It's just work stuff. You're not involved because you chose not to be involved." "Tessa," Ethan started, but she was already storming upstairs. We stood in the kitchen, the silence heavy with unspoken accusations. Finally, Ethan cleared his throat. "I should go talk to her." "Should you?" I met his gaze. "Or should you tell me what's really going on?" For a moment, something flickered across his face. Guilt. Fear. I couldn't tell. Then his phone buzzed, and the moment shattered. He glanced at the screen, and I caught a glimpse of that same elegant handwriting I'd seen on the note. "I need to take this," he muttered, already turning away. "Work thing." I watched him retreat to his home office, phone pressed to his ear, voice dropping to a whisper as soon as he thought I couldn't hear. Upstairs, Tessa's music started blasting. The same songs she played in Ethan's car, the ones she said I wouldn't understand. My phone lit up with a message from Nolan. "Found something. Meet tomorrow?" I typed back, yes, and deleted the message, just like I'd been deleting all our conversations. Just like Ethan had been deleting his. Nolan spread the photos across his desk like playing cards. Each one felt like a punch to the gut. Ethan and Celeste at a restaurant I'd never seen, their heads bent close together. Ethan helping Celeste into his car outside her apartment building at dawn. But the last photo made my hands shake. Tessa sitting between them at a cafe, all three laughing over something on Celeste's phone. "When?" My voice cracked. "Last Tuesday. The day Tessa said she was studying at the library." Nolan's voice was gentle. "There's more." He slid over a receipt from a jewelry store. The date matched the afternoon Ethan claimed he had a client meeting. The amount made me feel sick. "The necklace went to Celeste's apartment," Nolan said. "Delivered last week." My phone buzzed. Tessa asking if she could sleep at her friend Amy's house. I knew now that Amy probably had long dark hair and worked in marketing. "They're careful," Nolan continued, "but not careful enough. Celeste's father is pushing for Ethan to take over as creative director. The position opens next month." The pieces clicked together. Ethan's sudden interest in bringing Tessa to work, the mentoring sessions, the way he'd been positioning himself for promotion. He wasn't just having an affair. He was building a new family right under my nose. "I need to go." I gathered the photos with trembling fingers. "What do I owe you?" "Lila." Nolan caught my wrist. "There's something else. Celeste is house hunting. 3-bedroom properties in our school district." The floor seemed to tilt beneath my feet. 3 bedrooms. Room for Tessa. I drove home in a daze, the manila envelope of photos burning a hole in my passenger seat. The house was dark when I arrived, but Ethan's car was in the driveway. I found him in his home office, laptop glowing in the darkness. "Working late?" I asked from the doorway. He jumped slightly. "Just finishing some proposals." I dropped the envelope on his desk. "Here's a proposal for you. His face drained of color as he looked through the photos. When he reached the one of Tessa, his hands started shaking. "I can explain," he began. "Explain what? How you're grooming our daughter to accept your mistress. Or how you're using her to secure your promotion." "That's not," he ran a hand through his hair. "Celeste genuinely cares about Tessa. About both of us. Both of you." I laughed, a harsh sound I barely recognized. "Is that why you're looking at houses together? Planning your new life, while I'm still living this one?" The front door opened downstairs. Tessa's footsteps on the stairs, then her voice. "Dad? Are you still up? I need to talk to you about." She froze in the doorway, taking in the scattered photos, my rigid posture, Ethan's pale face. "Mom," her voice small, young. "What's going on?" "Show her, Ethan." I gestured to the photos. "Show her how you've been using her to play happy families with your girlfriend." Dad wouldn't. Tessa grabbed the nearest photo, then another. Her hands started shaking. "This isn't—" "You said she was just mentoring me." "Tess, honey." Ethan reached for her, but she backed away. "You made me lie to Mom." Her voice cracked. "All those times you said Mom wouldn't understand, that she was too controlling, too focused on her work to care about what we were doing." "I never meant—" "Stop lying." I slammed my hand on his desk. "For once in your life, just stop lying." The silence that followed was deafening. Tessa looked between us, tears streaming down her face, before turning and running to her room. The door slammed, and moments later, her music started blasting. Not the songs from Ethan's car this time, but the angry punk rock she used to play before all this started. The real estate agent's smile faltered when I walked into the open house. Maybe she recognized me, the soon-to-be ex-wife of the man who'd toured this same property with his girlfriend last week. I kept my face neutral, wandering through the rooms where Ethan and Celeste had probably already planned their future. My phone buzzed. "Tessa, where are you?" "Dad's freaking out." I ignored it, running my hand along the kitchen island. 3 bedrooms upstairs, the agent had said. Master suite, home office, and a room perfect for a teenager. They'd thought of everything. Another text. "Mom, please. He says you emptied the joint account." I had. Every penny except what was legally required to maintain household expenses. The look on my bank manager's face when I'd explained the situation told me I wasn't the first woman to sit in that chair, planning her escape. The agent cleared her throat. "There's another showing scheduled. Celeste Harmon, right?" I watched her expression shift. "Tell her the crown molding in the master bedroom is crooked, and the school district isn't what it used to be." Outside, I found Nolan waiting in his car. "Did you get what you needed?" I handed him the business card I'd picked up inside. "Find out who else they're showing houses to. I want to know every property they visited." "Lila." His voice was careful. "Are you sure this is about protecting Tessa?" Before I could answer, my phone rang. Ethan's mother. "Lila, dear, what's happening?" "Ethan says you're not answering his calls, and Tessa's absolutely beside herself. Ask your son about the house he's buying with Celeste Harmon." My voice sounded distant, cold. "Ask him about the necklace he bought her, or how he's been using Tessa to cover his tracks." Silence then. "Oh, Lila. I have to go." I hung up, watching another couple approach the house. Young, hopeful, untouched by betrayal. "Drive, Nolan." At my office, I found Tessa waiting in the parking lot, her eyes red. "You can't just disappear like that. Like you disappeared to all those study sessions with Celeste?" She flinched. "That's different." Dad said. "Your father says a lot of things." I unlocked the office door, letting us both in. "Did he tell you about the house they're buying? The one with the room already picked out for you?" "He wouldn't." She stopped, remembering the photos. "I didn't know about any house."
No.
I pulled up the listing on my phone, showed her the virtual tour. "Maybe you can help them decorate. You 3 seem to make such a good team." "Stop it." She knocked the phone from my hand. "You're acting crazy. Dad messed up, okay? But you're making it worse. By protecting what's mine? By acting like I'm something to fight over." Her voice cracked. "Did you ever think maybe I needed both of you? That maybe if you hadn't been so obsessed with your practice, Dad wouldn't have." She stopped, horror spreading across her face. I felt the accusation land like a slap. Mom, I didn't mean. Yes, you did. I picked up my phone, noting the cracked screen. Go home, Tessa. Your father's waiting. Where are you going to go? I thought about the apartment I'd viewed yesterday, the lease papers waiting in my bag. Somewhere I don't have to watch my daughter choose her father's lies over her mother's truth. She reached for me, but I stepped back. Through the window, I saw Ethan's car pulling into the lot. Of course, he'd followed her here. Of course, he wouldn't let me have even this conversation in peace. Mom, please. Go. I turned away, unable to watch her choose him again. Your father's here. The lease papers sat and signed on my new apartment's kitchen counter while I unpacked boxes labeled mine in angry black marker. Everything divided now. His life, my life, our daughter caught in between. My phone showed 3 missed calls from Ethan's lawyer and a text from Tessa. At least tell me where you are.
The doorbell rang.
Through the peephole, I saw Celeste Harmon, perfect makeup, perfect posture, perfect life wrecker. I opened the door. Wrong apartment?
DR.
Mercer. She held up a manila envelope. We need to talk. No, we don't. I started to close the door, but she wedged her foot in the gap. It's about Tessa. She pushed the envelope through. And about the complaint you filed with the medical board. My hand froze on the doorknob. I hadn't filed any complaint. Inside the envelope were printouts of emails, dozens of them sent to the state medical board, detailing allegations of prescription fraud at my practice. All supposedly from me. Ethan didn't send these, Celeste said quietly. But my father has friends on the board. They're taking it seriously. The room tilted slightly. My license, my practice, my entire professional identity, all balanced on the edge of destruction. What do you want? Stop investigating us. Stop fighting the house purchase. Let Tessa make her own choices. She straightened her designer blazer. The board meets next week. It would be shame if. Mom, we both turned. Tessa stood in the hallway, her face shifting from surprise to understanding to anger. What are you doing here? She stepped between us, facing Celeste. Did Dad send you? Tessa, honey. Don't. Tessa's voice cracked. Don't pretend you care about me. I saw the text on Dad's phone. About how I was your ticket to making this work. Celeste paled. Those messages weren't.
What?
Weren't meant for me to see? Like the emails you helped Dad draft about Mom's practice? Tessa pulled out her phone, fingers shaking. I forwarded everything to myself before I deleted them from his phone. Every single message where you two planned how to handle me and Mom. The hallway felt too small, too charged with unspoken threats and revealed secrets. Tessa, I touched her shoulder. How long have you known? Since the day you found the note.
She wouldn't look at me.
I saw Celeste plant it in Dad's jacket at the office. They wanted you to find it, wanted you to look crazy when you accused them. Celeste took a step back. Your father loves you, Tessa. Everything we did was for you. Tessa's voice was ice. Get out. And tell Dad that if anything happens to Mom's practice, his precious promotion might get complicated. Grandpa Harmon might want to know exactly how his daughter landed such a prime position. After Celeste left, Tessa stood rigid, staring at the floor. I should have told you sooner. About everything. Why didn't you? Because. She finally met my eyes. I thought if I played along, kept their secrets, maybe it wouldn't be real. Maybe we could still be. She gestured helplessly at the half-unpacked boxes. But we can't, can we? I looked at the envelope of fraudulent complaints, thought of all the careful plans Ethan and Celeste had made to destroy what I'd built. No, I said, reaching for my phone. But we can build something new. I dialed Nolan's number. Something they won't see coming. Tessa picked up one of the boxes marked mine and crossed out the word with her pen. Above it, she wrote OURS. What's the plan? She asked. I thought about everything they'd tried to take from us. My practice, my daughter, my dignity. First, I said, we're going to need those texts you saved. The medical board hearing room felt colder than it should in June. I sat straight-backed in my chair while Dr. Harrison, the board chairman, reviewed the complaint documents. Beside me, my lawyer shifted nervously, eyeing the empty seats where Ethan and Celeste should have been.
Dr.
Mercer, Harrison began, these are serious allegations. Prescription fraud. The door burst open. Celeste rushed in. Mascara streaked down her face.
Wait.
I need to. MS.
Harmon.
Harrison frowned. This is a closed hearing. The complaints are fake. She dropped a USB drive on the table. I helped create them. All the evidence is here. My lawyer reached for the drive, but I stopped him. Something wasn't right. This felt too easy, too convenient. Why? Asked her. Celeste's lips trembled. Because Ethan promised he'd leave you if I did this. Said once your practice was gone, you'd have no choice but to accept the divorce terms. She wiped her eyes. But he lied. He's been lying to everyone. The board members exchanged glances. Harrison picked up the drive. We'll need to verify. My phone buzzed. A text from Nolan. Don't trust her. Check your email now. Under the table, I opened my email. Photos appeared, Celeste leaving Ethan's office an hour ago, both of them smiling. The timestamp showed 9:47 a.m. Her mascara perfectly intact.
Dr.
Harrison. I stood up. Before you review that drive, you should know it's part of a larger scheme. Celeste's face hardened. What are you talking about? The drive probably contains evidence of actual fraud committed at my practice over the last month. Evidence you and Ethan planted while using my login credentials. I pulled out my own USB drive. But you didn't know about the hidden cameras Nolan installed 3 weeks ago. The color drained from Celeste's face. Or about the keylogger that recorded every false entry you made in my system. I handed the drive to Harrison. Or about Tessa photographing you breaking into my office after hours. Tessa would never. Already did. Tessa's voice came from the doorway. She held up her phone, playing a video of Celeste entering my office at night. Dad's not the only one who knows how to keep evidence. Celeste lunged for the phone. In the chaos that followed, I watched my daughter, my fierce, brilliant daughter, stand her ground as security led Celeste away. But our victory was short-lived. My phone buzzed again. Ethan had emptied our remaining joint accounts. The house was already in escrow, sold well below market value to a mysterious LLC. He'd scorched the earth behind him, ensuring that even if I kept my practice, I'd be fighting financial fires for years. Mom, Tessa touched my arm. What's wrong? I showed her the bank notifications. Your father's been planning this for months. The medical board complaint was just a distraction while he liquidated everything. But we stopped Celeste. We proved they tried to destroy my practice. I sank back into my chair, the weight of reality settling in. But they've still won. The money's gone. The house is gone. Your college fund. Tessa's face crumpled. He wouldn't, but he had. In trying to save my practice, I'd left our finances vulnerable. Now we had nothing but an apartment full of boxes and a business hanging by a thread.
Dr.
Mercer. Harrison's voice cut through my despair. Given this evidence, the board will dismiss the complaints. But there's something else you should see. He slid a document across the table, a familiar letterhead. Celeste's father's company. This arrived this morning. A formal investigation into certain financial irregularities. He met my eyes. It seems someone has been tracking every penny your husband moved, every account, every transfer, and they've been sending it all to the SEC. I looked at Tessa, but she shook her head, equally confused. Then my phone buzzed one last time. A message from an unknown number. Karma's best served by professionals.
And
The SEC investigation made headlines by morning. I watched from my apartment as news vans gathered outside Harmon Marketing Group, where Ethan had been scheduled to accept his promotion. Instead, federal agents led him and Celeste's father out in handcuffs. My doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Ethan. No handcuffs, but his designer suit was wrinkled, his hair unkempt. 5 minutes, I said through the door. That's all you get. He looked smaller somehow, standing in my living room. You did this.
no.
I gestured to the boxes Tessa and I were still unpacking. You did this. Every choice, every lie, every manipulation brought you here. They're freezing all the accounts. His voice cracked. Everything we built. Everything you destroyed. Tessa emerged from her room, clutching her phone. They just posted the whole investigation online. The fake companies, the embezzlement. You used my college fund to pay for your affair. Ethan reached for her. Princess, I can explain. Don't. She backed away. I saw the texts about the house. About how you and Celeste planned to use me to hurt Mom. Was any of it real? Did you ever actually love either of us? Of course, Sai, he stopped, seeing something in her expression. What else do you know? Everything. I pulled out my own phone, showing him Nolan's final report, including what really happened to your first wife's inheritance. The one that mysteriously disappeared right before you met me. The color drained from his face. You can't prove. The SEC already has. Nolan's been building this case for weeks. Every transaction, every shell company, every victim. I stepped closer. Did you really think I'd let you destroy another family? I'll lose everything. His voice was barely a whisper. Now you know how it feels. Tessa's words cut through the air. But Mom and I, we're done losing. My phone buzzed. Nolan, warning that reporters were heading to my apartment. Ethan saw the message, and something in him broke.
Please, he begged.
I'll sign whatever you want.
Give you whatever's left.
Just don't let them. You mean like you were going to give me whatever was left after you and Celeste destroyed my practice? The words tasted like victory, but somehow hollow. The reporters will be here soon. You might want to use the back exit. He turned to Tessa one last time. Baby, please. Goodbye, Dad. She walked to her room, closing the door softly behind her. I watched him leave, this man I'd once loved, now reduced to skulking through back alleys to avoid cameras. Part of me had imagined this moment would feel triumphant. Instead, I felt empty until I heard Tessa crying. I found her sitting on her bed, surrounded by old family photos. He really never loved us, did he? No, honey. I sat beside her, picking up a photo from her 5th birthday. He loved the idea of us. The perfect wife, the adoring daughter. We were props in his performance. But we're not props anymore. She wiped her eyes, straightening her shoulders. We're protagonists. Through the window, we could hear the reporters arriving, their questions echoing up from the street. But they weren't looking for us. We weren't the story anymore. Mom, Tessa gathered the photos, dropping them in the trash. Can we paint my room? I'm thinking blue. I smiled, remembering how Ethan had always insisted on beige, claiming it photographed better for family portraits. Blue sounds perfect. My phone buzzed again. Not Nolan this time, but my lawyer. The SEC wanted to discuss recovering our assets. Starting over, properly this time. Ready to rebuild? I asked Tessa. She linked her arm through mine. Already started. 6 months later, I stood in my newly expanded dermatology practice, watching Tessa hang her first art show in our waiting room. Her photographs captured moments of transformation, a butterfly emerging from its chrysalis, a sunrise over our apartment building, a broken mirror reflecting infinite possibilities.
The bell chimed.
Celeste stood in the doorway, thinner now, designer clothes replaced by something simpler. She carried a thick envelope. Your restitution payment. She placed it on the counter. The court approved my testimony against Ethan and father. This is your share. Tessa tensed beside me, but I touched her arm. Thank you. I'm leaving the country, Celeste continued. But I wanted you to know I never meant for it to go so far. Ethan had a way of making everything seem justified. He still does. I gestured to yesterday's newspaper, where Ethan's prison interview painted him as a victim of circumstance. Some people never change, but some do. She looked at Tessa's photos. These are beautiful. They're not for sale. Tessa's voice was firm but not unkind. Not to you. Celeste nodded, understanding the deeper meaning. She turned to leave, then stopped. The house, the one we were going to buy. It's back on the market. After she left, Tessa grabbed her keys. Come on. Where are we going? To look at a house.
She grinned.
One with good bones and bad memories. Perfect for a renovation. The house looked smaller than I remembered. The real estate agent walked us through rooms once filled with Ethan and Celeste's dreams, now empty and waiting. The previous sale fell through, she explained. Something about fraudulent funds. But it's a steal at this price. Tessa wandered upstairs while I stood in the kitchen, remembering how I'd once imagined Celeste here, playing happy families with my husband and daughter. Now I imagine something different. Holiday dinners with Tessa and her future college friends, a home office for my practice's expansion, walls filled with her photography. Mom, Tessa called from upstairs. Come see this. I found her in what would have been her room in Ethan's version of events. She'd open the window, letting in fresh air and light. On the windowsill sat a small origami crane, one of dozens she'd been folding since the trial, a paper chain of healing. It's perfect, she said. Not because of what almost happened here, but because of what could happen now. My phone buzzed. Nolan, checking if we needed him to run background checks on the seller. Always protecting us, even now. I replied with a simple thank you for everything he'd done and everything he'd helped us become. Should we make an offer?
Tessa asked.
I looked around the room, seeing not what was lost but what could be built. On one condition. That blue paint you wanted for your room? Let's use it everywhere. That evening, as we celebrated with takeout in our apartment, Tessa handed me an envelope. Inside was a photograph I hadn't seen, one she'd taken the day we found Ethan's note. In it, I stood in my closet, surrounded by his suits, looking lost. Below it was a more recent shot, me in my practice, surrounded by Tessa's art, smiling at a patient. Before and after, she said softly. Like your patients, but different. Different how? Their transformations are on the outside. She took my hand. Ours is deeper. Through the window, I could see the city lights flickering like stars. Somewhere out there, Ethan sat in his cell, probably still plotting his next performance. But his audience had moved on to better stories, ones we were writing ourselves, one day at a time. Mom, Tessa squeezed my hand. I'm glad we chose us. Me too, honey. I squeezed back. Me too. Alara, you're a burden. You can't even manage our home or care for Juniper. What good are you? Milo's words sliced through the sterile hospital air, cutting deeper than the injuries that had landed me here. I stared at him, my husband of 10 years, searching for a glimmer of the man I'd fallen in love with. There was nothing but cold disdain in his eyes. I'm sorry, I whispered, my voice hoarse from disuse. I'll try harder. He scoffed, running a hand through his perfectly styled hair. Try harder? You've been saying that for years. Look at you now, laid up in this bed. Who's taking care of our daughter? Who's running our household? I swallowed hard, fighting back tears. It was an accident, Milo. I didn't mean to. Of course you didn't mean to, he interrupted, his tone dripping with sarcasm. You never mean to do anything wrong, do you, Alara? It's always an accident, always someone else's fault. My name is Alara, and this is the moment I realized my husband was my enemy. I closed my eyes, willing the pain in my chest to subside. It wasn't just from the broken ribs, it was the crushing weight of disappointment and betrayal. When had things gone so wrong? When had the man who once promised to love and cherish me become this cruel, unfeeling stranger? Where's Juniper? I asked, changing the subject. Is she okay? Milo's face softened slightly at the mention of our daughter. She's with your parents. They're spoiling her rotten as usual. I nodded, relieved that at least our little girl was safe and cared for. Can I see her soon? When you're better, Milo said dismissively. She doesn't need to see you like this. It would only upset her. I bit my lip, holding back a retort. Of course Juniper would want to see me, regardless of my condition. She was only 7, but she was perceptive and loving. Unlike her father. Milo glanced at his watch, sighing dramatically. I have to go. I have a meeting I can't miss. On a Saturday? I couldn't keep the suspicion out of my voice. His eyes narrowed. Yes, on a Saturday. Some of us still have work to do, Ilara. We can't all lie around in bed all day. The barb stung, but I refused to let him see how much it hurt. Of course. I understand. Milo leaned down, his lips brushing my forehead in a perfunctory kiss. Get better soon. We need you back home. As he turned to leave, a faint scent caught my attention. It wasn't his usual cologne. It was something softer, more floral. Women's perfume. The door closed behind him, and I was left alone with my thoughts and the steady beep of the heart monitor. Tears welled up in my eyes, but I blinked them away furiously. I was done crying over Milo. Done being the perfect, submissive wife who always tried to please him. I thought back to the accident that had brought me here. The screeching tires, the sickening crunch of metal, the world spinning out of control. It had been terrifying, but now, lying in this hospital bed, I felt an odd sense of clarity. This was my chance. My opportunity to reclaim my life, to become the woman I used to be before Milo's controlling nature had slowly eroded my sense of self. A knock at the door interrupted my thoughts. A nurse entered, her kind face a welcome change from Milo's cold demeanor. "How are you feeling, Mrs. Henderson?" she asked, checking my vitals. "I'm okay," I lied, forcing a smile. "When do you think I'll be able to go home?" The nurse consulted my chart. "The doctor wants to keep you for a few more days just to be safe. You took quite a hit in that accident." I nodded, my mind already racing. A few more days. That's all I needed to start formulating a plan. "Is there anything you need?" the nurse asked. "Anyone you'd like us to call?" I hesitated for a moment, then made a decision. "Yes, actually. Could you please call my father? Cyrus Blackwood." The nurse smiled. "Of course. I'll take care of that right away." As she left the room, I settled back against the pillows, a newfound determination coursing through me. Milo thought I was weak, a burden. He had no idea what I was capable of. I closed my eyes, picturing Juniper's sweet face. Everything I was about to do, I would do for her. To protect her from the man Milo had become. To give her the loving, stable home she deserved. My fingers curled into fists at my sides. Milo had made a grave mistake in underestimating me. He thought he held all the power in our relationship, but he was wrong. I had something he didn't know about, something that would change everything. A secret that would bring his carefully constructed world crashing down around him. As I drifted off to sleep, a small, satisfied smile played on my lips. Milo's reign of control was coming to an end, and he didn't even know it yet. Let the games begin. I closed my eyes, letting the rhythmic beeping of the hospital machines fade away as my mind drifted back to the beginning. The day I met Milo Henderson. It was a crisp autumn afternoon, leaves crunching under my feet as I hurried across the university quad. I was late for a guest lecture, my arms full of books and papers. That's when I collided with him. Whoa there! His voice was warm, tinged with amusement. Strong hands steadied me, preventing a fall. "Are you all right?" I looked up, meeting the most captivating green eyes I'd ever seen. "I'm so sorry," I stammered, face flushing. I wasn't watching where I was going. He grinned, helping me gather my scattered belongings. "No harm done. I'm Milo, by the way. Milo Henderson." "Ilara Blackwood," I replied, returning his smile. That chance encounter sparked a whirlwind romance. Milo was charming, attentive, and seemed to genuinely care about my dreams and aspirations. We spent hours talking about everything and nothing, his wit and intelligence drawing me in deeper with each passing day. Our wedding, just a year later, was a fairy tale come to life. I floated down the aisle, certain I was marrying my soulmate. Milo's vows brought tears to my eyes. "Ilara, you are my light, my inspiration, my everything," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I promise to cherish and support you, to be your partner in all things. Our love will only grow stronger with each passing year." The first few years of marriage were blissful. We traveled, built our careers, and created a beautiful home together. When Juniper was born, I thought my heart might burst with happiness. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, things began to change. It started with small comments about my appearance. "Are you sure you want to wear that?" Milo would ask, his tone light but his eyes critical. "I think the blue dress suits you better." Then came the questions about my time. "Where were you all afternoon?" he'd demand, even though I told him I was meeting a friend for coffee. "You should have been home preparing dinner." I tried to brush it off, telling myself he was just stressed from work. But the controlling behavior escalated. "I don't think you should go back to work," Milo announced one evening, shortly after my maternity leave ended. "Juniper needs her mother at home." I was stunned.
But we talked about this.
"I love my job and we agreed." "Things change, Alara," he interrupted, his tone brooking no argument. "This is what's best for our family." Reluctantly, I resigned from my position, telling myself it was temporary. But as the months turned into years, I found myself increasingly isolated. Milo discouraged me from seeing old friends, claiming they were a bad influence. He controlled our finances, doling out an allowance, as if I were a child. "You don't need to worry your pretty little head about money," he'd say patronizingly. "I've got everything under control." I barely recognized myself anymore. The confident, ambitious woman I'd once been was fading away, replaced by a shadow who lived to please her husband. One night, after a particularly heated argument about my desire to take an online course, I found myself staring at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. Dark circles shadowed my eyes, and worry lines creased my forehead. "What happened to you?" I whispered to my reflection. That's when Juniper's small voice piped up from the doorway. "Mommy? Are you okay?" I turned, forcing a smile for my daughter. "Of course, sweetheart. Mommy's just tired." Juniper's perceptive eyes studied me. "Daddy yelled again, didn't he? He sounds scary sometimes." My heart clenched. I knelt down, pulling her into a tight hug. "Everything's going to be all right," I murmured, more to myself than to her. "I promise." As I held my daughter, a spark of my old self flickered to life. I couldn't let this continue. For Juniper's sake, and for my own, something had to change. The next morning, I made a decision. While Milo was at work and Juniper at school, I drove to the bank. With trembling hands, I withdrew a small amount of cash from our joint account and opened a separate, secret account in my name only. It wasn't much, but it was a start. A tiny act of rebellion, a step towards reclaiming my independence. As I drove home, my phone buzzed with a text from Milo. "Where are you? Why aren't you answering the house phone?" My hands tightened on the steering wheel. The old Alara would have panicked, rushing home to avoid his anger. But something had shifted inside me. I pulled over, took a deep breath, and typed a reply. "Ran a few errands. Be home soon." It was a small thing, but it felt monumental. For the first time in years, I was making a choice for myself, without seeking Milo's approval. As I pulled back onto the road, I felt a mixture of fear and exhilaration. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew one thing for certain. I couldn't go on living this way. The woman Milo had fallen in love with was still inside me, buried beneath years of control and manipulation. It was time to set her free. The sound of Juniper's laughter filled the kitchen as I flipped another pancake onto her plate. It was Saturday morning, and Milo was away on yet another business trip. "Can we have a tea party later, Mommy?" Juniper asked, syrup dripping down her chin. I smiled, wiping her face with a napkin. "Of course, sweetheart. We can invite Mr. Snuggles and Princess Sparkle too." As I watched my daughter eat, I couldn't help but marvel at her resilience. Despite the tension that often filled our home, Juniper remained a bright, loving child. But I wasn't blind to the effects of Milo's behavior on her. "Mommy," Juniper said suddenly, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Is Daddy coming home today?" I hesitated, unsure how to answer. "I'm not sure, honey. Why do you ask?" She shrugged, pushing her pancakes around her plate. "He's gone a lot. And when he is home, he's always on his phone or yelling." My heart clenched. "Daddy's just been busy with work, that's all." Juniper looked up at me, her eyes far too serious for a 7-year-old. "Is that why he smells different now?" I froze. What do you mean, different? Like flowers, she said, wrinkling her nose. It's not his normal smell. I don't like it. The room seemed to tilt for a moment as the implications of Juniper's innocent observation hit me. Floral perfume. The scent I'd noticed in the hospital wasn't a one-time occurrence. When did you first notice this new smell? I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. Juniper thought for a moment. A few months ago, I think, after he started working late all the time. I nodded, my mind racing. Thank you for telling me, sweetheart. Now, why don't you go get dressed for our tea party? As soon as Juniper left the kitchen, I sagged against the counter, my suspicions crystallizing into a sickening certainty. Milo was having an affair. The rest of the day passed in a blur of tea parties and forced smiles. After tucking Juniper into bed, I found myself pacing the living room, my thoughts a chaotic whirlwind. What was I going to do? Confront Milo? But with what proof? The word of a 7-year-old about a change in cologne? My eyes fell on Milo's desk in the corner of the room. He always kept it meticulously organized, warning me never to touch his work papers. But now, driven by a desperate need for answers, I approached it. The top drawer was locked, but I knew where Milo kept the key. With trembling hands, I retrieved it from its hiding place and opened the drawer. At first glance, everything seemed normal. Neatly stacked files, a calculator, some pens. But as I rifled through the papers, a small, pale blue envelope caught my eye. It was tucked beneath a stack of invoices, as if hidden. My heart pounding, I opened it. Inside was a handwritten note, the flowing script distinctly feminine. My dearest Milo, last night was magical, as always. I can't wait to see you again. Remember, patience is a virtue. All my love.
P.
The letter slipped from my numb fingers, floating to the floor like a fallen leaf. Patience. Even her name was a mockery of my situation. I don't know how long I stood there, staring at nothing as my world crumbled around me. The sound of a car in the driveway jolted me back to reality. Milo was home. Hastily, I replaced the letter and locked the drawer, just managing to retreat to the kitchen before the front door opened. Alara? Milo called out. Where are you? I took a deep breath, plastering a smile on my face as I stepped into the hallway. Welcome home. How was your trip? Milo's eyes narrowed slightly, studying me.
Fine. Productive.
Is Juniper asleep? I nodded, fighting to keep my voice steady. Yes. She went down about an hour ago. He grunted, loosening his tie. Good. I'm going to take a shower. As he brushed past me, that faint floral scent wafted through the air. Juniper was right. It wasn't his usual cologne. I waited until I heard the shower running before I allowed the tears to fall. How had I been so blind? So willing to make excuses for his behavior? But as I stood there, crying silently in the darkened hallway, something shifted inside me. The sadness gave way to anger, then determination. I thought of Juniper, of the life I wanted for her. A life free from lies and manipulation. I couldn't confront Milo. Not yet. I needed more evidence, needed to be smart about this. For Juniper's sake, and for my own. Wiping my eyes, I made a decision. Tomorrow, I would start looking for a private investigator. Someone who could give me the proof I needed to break free from this sham of a marriage. As I heard the shower turn off, I straightened my shoulders and headed to the bedroom. I would play the role of the dutiful wife a little longer. But not for much longer. Milo had no idea what was coming. And for the first time in years, I felt a flicker of hope for the future. A future where I would reclaim my life, my dignity, and my freedom. The game was about to change, and this time, I intended to win. The Office of Reed Investigations was nothing like I'd imagined. Instead of a dimly lit, smoke-filled room straight out of a noir film, I found myself in a modern, well-lit space with sleek furnishings and state-of-the-art technology. Mrs. Henderson, a tall, athletic woman with short cropped hair, approached me, hand extended. I'm Samantha Reed. Please come in. I followed her to a private office, clutching my purse tightly. Inside, I hesitated before taking a seat across from her desk. "So," Samantha said, her tone businesslike but not unkind, "what can I help you with today?" I took a deep breath, steeling myself. "I believe my husband is having an affair." Samantha nodded, her expression neutral. "I see. And what has led you to this conclusion?" As I recounted the evidence, the late nights, the mysterious phone calls, Juniper's comments about the new cologne, and the letter I'd found, Samantha listened intently, occasionally jotting down notes. "Mrs. Henderson," she said when I'd finished, "based on what you've told me, I believe you have good reason to be suspicious. However, to build a solid case, we'll need more concrete evidence." "What kind of evidence?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Photos, video footage, financial records," Samantha replied. "Anything that definitively proves your husband's infidelity." I nodded, a mix of relief and apprehension washing over me. "How long will this take?" "It depends on how careful your husband is being," Samantha explained. "But typically, in cases like these, we can gather sufficient evidence within a few weeks." As we discussed the details of the investigation, including the not insignificant cost, a part of me still couldn't believe I was doing this. But then I thought of Juniper, of the life I wanted for her, and my resolve strengthened. "One more thing," I said as our meeting concluded. "My husband can't know about this. He has a temper." Samantha's eyes softened with understanding. "Don't worry, Mrs. Henderson. Discretion is our top priority." As I left the office, I felt a strange mixture of dread and exhilaration. The wheels were in motion now. There was no turning back. The next few weeks were a masterclass in deception. I maintained a facade of normalcy at home, all while secretly communicating with Samantha and her team. Every time Milo announced a late meeting or a business dinner, I relayed the information to the investigators. It was during this time that I stumbled upon something unexpected. While searching for an old photo album in our attic, I came across a small, locked safe I'd never seen before. My curiosity piqued. I made a mental note of its location, determined to find a way to open it. 3 weeks after my initial meeting with Samantha, I received a text message. "We have what we need. Meeting tomorrow, 2 p.m. That night, as Milo and I sat at opposite ends of the dinner table, the silence between us thick and oppressive, I studied him. How had we come to this? The man I'd once loved so deeply now felt like a stranger. "I have to go out of town next week," Milo announced suddenly, not looking up from his plate. "Important client meeting." I nodded, keeping my voice neutral. "How long will you be gone?" 3 days, maybe 4, he replied. "I'll let you know." As I cleared the dishes, my mind raced. This trip could be the perfect opportunity to investigate that safe in the attic. The next day, I sat in Samantha's office, my hands shaking as I looked through the folder she'd handed me. Photos of Milo entering a high-end hotel, arm in arm with a stunning blonde woman. Security camera footage of them kissing in an elevator. Credit card statements showing expensive gifts and meals for 2 at romantic restaurants. "Her name is Patience Lawson," Samantha explained gently. "She's a junior executive at a rival firm. They've been seeing each other for at least 6 months, possibly longer." I stared at a close-up photo of Patience, taking in her flawless skin and designer clothes. She looked young, probably in her late 20s. Everything I used to be, before years of Milo's control had worn me down. "What do you want to do now, Mrs. Henderson?" Samantha asked. I took a deep breath, squaring my shoulders. "I want to end my marriage. But first, I need to know what's in that safe." Samantha nodded, understanding in her eyes. "We can help with that." "When will the house be empty?" "Next week," I replied. "Milo will be out of town, and I can send Juniper to my parents for a day." As I left the office, clutching the damning evidence of Milo's betrayal, I felt a strange sense of calm settle over me. The truth was out now, and with it came a clarity I hadn't experienced in years. I thought of the frightened, downtrodden woman I'd become, and of the strong, independent person I used to be. It was time to reclaim that woman, for myself and for Juniper. Milo had no idea what was coming. But soon, very soon, his carefully constructed world of lies would come crashing down around him. And I would be there, standing tall in the rubble, ready to build a new life for myself and my daughter. The game was changing, and this time I held all the cards. The steady beep of the heart monitor filled the hospital room as I lay there, my body battered and bruised from the car accident. 3 weeks had passed, but the pain still lingered, both physical and emotional. Milo's cruel words from his last visit echoed in my mind, a constant reminder of how far we'd fallen. A soft knock on the door pulled me from my thoughts. "Come in," I called, expecting another nurse for my routine checkup. Instead, my father's familiar face appeared, his eyes filled with concern. "Elara, sweetheart, how are you feeling?" "Dad," I breathed, relief washing over me. "I'm okay, just tired." Cyrus Blackwood approached my bedside, taking my hand in his. His touch was warm, comforting, everything Milo's hadn't been in years. "I've been trying to reach you for days," he said, his brow furrowed. "Milo said you weren't up for visitors, but I couldn't stay away any longer." Of course, Milo had been gatekeeping. I shouldn't have been surprised. "I'm glad you're here, Dad," I said, squeezing his hand. Cyrus settled into the chair beside my bed, his expression serious. "Elara, there's something I need to tell you. Something important." I tensed, bracing myself for bad news. "What is it?" "Do you remember your great-aunt Cordelia?" he asked. I nodded, recalling the eccentric old woman who'd always smelled of lavender and peppermints. "Of course. She passed away a few years ago, didn't she?" "Yes," Cyrus confirmed. "What you don't know is that she left you something in her will. Something substantial." My heart began to race, setting off the monitor beside me. "What do you mean?" Cyrus leaned in, lowering his voice. "Cordelia left you her entire estate, Elara. The house, her investments, everything. It's all yours."
The room seemed to spin around me.
"But
Why?
why me?" "She always had a soft spot for you," Cyrus explained. "Said you reminded her of herself when she was young. Strong-willed, independent." I almost laughed at that. Independent? I'd been anything but that for years. "The thing is," Cyrus continued, "there was a stipulation in the will. You weren't to be informed of the inheritance until your 40th birthday." "Which was last month," I whispered, the pieces falling into place. Caris nodded. "I've been trying to tell you, but with the accident and Milo blocking my calls." A thought struck me, cold and terrifying. "Dad, does Milo know about this?" "No," Cyrus assured me. "The lawyers have been very discreet. As far as I know, only you, me, and your mother are aware of the inheritance." Relief flooded through me, followed quickly by a surge of hope. This changed everything. With this inheritance, I had options. I could leave Milo, provide for Juniper, start a new life. "How much?" I asked, almost afraid to hear the answer. Cyrus hesitated, then said, "It's in the millions, Elara. You'll never have to worry about money again." Tears welled up in my eyes, a mix of gratitude and overwhelming emotion. "Oh, Dad," I choked out. He squeezed my hand, his eyes searching my face. "Elara, I know things haven't been right between you and Milo for a long time. Your mother and we've been worried sick. This inheritance, it could be your chance, your way out." I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. All the fears and doubts that had held me back, how I'd support Juniper, where we'd live, suddenly evaporated. "You don't have to decide anything now," Cyrus said gently. "Take your time, think it through. But know that you have options now. You're not trapped anymore." As the reality of my situation sank in, a plan began to form in my mind. The evidence from the private investigator, the mysterious safe in the attic, and now this unexpected windfall, it was all coming together. "Dad," I said, my voice stronger now, "I need your help with something." Cyrus leaned in, his expression serious. "Anything, sweetheart. What do you need?" "I need you to keep this inheritance a secret for a little while longer," I explained. "And I need you to take care of Juniper for a few days next week."
Can you do that?
He nodded, a glimmer of understanding in his eyes. "Of course. But, Elara, whatever you're planning, be careful." Milo, I know, Dad, I interrupted. Believe me, I know exactly what Milo is capable of. But it's time I showed him what I'm capable of too. As Cyrus left, promising to return with my mother soon, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. The accident that had landed me in this hospital bed wasn't just a setback, it was the catalyst for my liberation. Milo thought he had all the power, that I was helpless without him. But he was wrong. With the truth about his affair, the mystery of the safe, and now this unexpected fortune, I held all the cards. The game was about to change, and Milo had no idea what was coming. For the first time in years, I allowed myself to smile, a real, genuine smile that reached my eyes. Freedom was within my grasp, and I was ready to seize it with both hands. The sterile hospital room felt different today. The air was charged with tension as I sat up in bed, my heart pounding in anticipation. Today was the day I would confront Milo and reclaim my life. I heard his footsteps before I saw him, that familiar confident stride that used to make my heart flutter. Now, it only filled me with determination. Milo entered, his face a mask of concern that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Elara, darling, how are you feeling today?" I met his gaze steadily. "I'm feeling much better, Milo."
Please sit down.
"We need to talk." He hesitated, a flicker of unease crossing his features before he complied. "Of course. What's on your mind?" I took a deep breath, steeling myself. "I know about patience, Milo." The color drained from his face. "What are you talking about?" "Don't insult my intelligence," I said, my voice surprisingly calm. "I know about your affair. I have proof." Milo's expression hardened. "You're confused, Elara. The accident must have." "Stop lying," I interrupted, reaching for the folder on my bedside table. "I have photos, credit card statements, hotel receipts. Do you want to see them?" His eyes darted to the folder, then back to my face. "You had me followed," he hissed, anger replacing his feigned concern. "I did what I had to do," I replied. "You left me no choice." Milo stood abruptly, pacing the small room. "This is ridiculous. You've clearly lost your mind. When we get home, we'll find you a good therapist and—" "I'm not going home with you, Milo," I said firmly. "Not now, not ever." He whirled to face me, his eyes blazing. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying it's over. I want a divorce." Milo's laugh was cold, mirthless. "A divorce? And how exactly do you plan to support yourself? You haven't worked in years. You have nothing without me." I allowed myself a small smile. "That's where you're wrong. I have more than you could imagine." Confusion flickered across his face, quickly replaced by suspicion. "What are you talking about?" "I've inherited a fortune, Milo.
Milio.
I don't need your money anymore." He stared at me, disbelief etched on his features. "You're lying." "I'm not," I said calmly. "But that's not all. I know about the safe in the attic, Milo. What are you hiding in there?" Milo's face went pale, then flushed with rage. In 2 quick strides, he was at my bedside, looming over me. "You stay away from that safe. Do you understand me?" he snarled, gripping my arm painfully. I refused to flinch. "Or what, Milo? You'll hurt me? Like you've been hurting me for years?" His grip tightened, and for a moment, I saw the monster beneath the charming facade. "You have no idea what I'm capable of," he growled. "Neither do you," I shot back, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "I'm not the weak, submissive wife you think I am. Not anymore." Milo's eyes narrowed. "Is that so? And what about Juniper? Do you really think you can take care of her on your own? Don't you dare bring our daughter into this," I hissed. "She deserves better than a father who lies and cheats." His hand raised, and for a terrifying moment, I thought he might strike me. But then, a nurse appeared in the doorway. "Is everything all right in here?" she asked, her eyes darting between us suspiciously. Milo released my arm, his face instantly transforming into a mask of concern. "Everything's fine. My wife is just a bit emotional today." The nurse didn't look convinced. "Mr. Henderson, I think it's time for you to leave. Mrs. Henderson needs her rest." Milo's jaw clenched, but he nodded. "Of course." "I'll be back tomorrow, darling," he said, his tones sickly sweet. As he turned to leave, I called out, "Don't bother, Milo. I'll have my lawyer contact you." He froze for a moment, then stormed out without another word. As soon as he was gone, I let out a shaky breath. The nurse rushed to my side. "Mrs. Henderson, are you all right? Do you want me to call security?" I shook my head. "No, thank you. But could you please call my father? Cyrus Blackwood. His number is in my contact list." She nodded, patting my hand gently before leaving the room. Alone again, I closed my eyes, my mind reeling from the confrontation.
I had done it.
I had stood up to Milo, and I had survived. But I knew this was just the beginning. Milo's reaction to the safe troubled me. What could he be hiding that would make him so angry, so afraid? Whatever it was, I was determined to find out. As I waited for my father to arrive, I began to plan my next moves. I would need to secure a lawyer, find a new place to live, and most importantly, protect Juniper from the fallout. The road ahead would be challenging, but for the first time in years, I felt truly alive. I had reclaimed my voice, my power, and my future. Milo thought he had won, that he had broken me down over the years. But he was wrong. This was just the beginning of my comeback, and I was ready for whatever came next. Let him rage. Let him threaten. I was no longer afraid. I was Alara Blackwood, and I was finally free. The warm afternoon sun streamed through the windows of my parents' living room, casting a golden glow on Juniper as she played with her dolls. It had been 2 months since I'd left the hospital and moved in with my parents, 2 months of rebuilding my life piece by piece. "Mommy, look," Juniper exclaimed, holding up a doll she'd dressed in a miniature business suit. "She's a boss lady, just like you're going to be." I smiled, my heart swelling with love and pride. "That's right, sweetheart. We're both going to be strong, independent women." As I watched my daughter play, I marveled at how much had changed in such a short time. The divorce proceedings were underway, and thanks to the inheritance from Aunt Cordelia, I had the resources to fight Milo's attempts to control the narrative. My phone buzzed with a text from Samantha Reed, the private investigator. "Big news. Call ASAP." Excusing myself, I stepped into the kitchen to make the call. "Alara," Samantha's voice was urgent. "We cracked the safe. You're not going to believe what we found." My heart raced as she detailed the contents. Offshore account numbers, incriminating documents, and evidence of large-scale financial fraud at Milo's company. "This is huge," I breathed. "What do we do now?" "I've already contacted the authorities," Samantha replied. "They're moving to freeze Milo's assets. But Alara, be careful. He's going to be desperate when he finds out." As if on cue, the doorbell rang. Through the window, I saw Milo's car in the driveway. "He's here," I whispered. "I have to go." Ending the call, I took a deep breath and opened the door. Milo stood there, his once impeccable appearance now disheveled, his eyes wild. "Alara," he said, his voice a mixture of anger and desperation. "We need to talk." I stepped outside, closing the door behind me to shield Juniper from whatever was about to unfold. "There's nothing to talk about, Milo. It's over." He ran a hand through his unkempt hair.
You don't understand.
"I'm in trouble. Big trouble. I need your help." "My help?" I scoffed. "After everything you've done?" "Please," he begged, his facade crumbling. "They're investigating the company. I could go to prison. If you just sign a few documents, testify that you knew nothing about the finances." I cut him off.
No, Milo.
"I won't lie for you." His expression darkened.
You owe me, Alara.
"After everything I've done for you and Juniper." "Everything you've done?" I interrupted, my voice rising. "You mean controlling every aspect of our lives? Cheating on me? Belittling me at every turn?" Milo's eyes narrowed. "You ungrateful bitch. You'd be nothing without me." "That's where you're wrong," I said, standing tall. "I'm everything I am in spite of you, not because of you." He lunged forward, grabbing my arm. "You'll regret this, Alara. I'll make sure you never see Juniper again." Before I could react, a strong hand clamped down on Milo's shoulder. "I suggest you let go of my daughter," my father's voice boomed. Milo released me, stumbling backward. Cyrus stood protectively in front of me, his eyes blazing with fury. "You're finished, Milo," I said, my voice steady. "The authorities know everything. It's only a matter of time before they come for you." The color drained from Milo's face. You open the safe." I nodded. "It's over. Leave now before I call the police." For a moment, I thought he might lash out again. But then, his shoulders slumped in defeat. Without another word, he turned and stumbled to his car, driving away with a screech of tires. As the adrenaline faded, I sagged against my father. "It's really over," I whispered. Cyrus hugged me tightly. "You did it, sweetheart. You're free." Over the next few weeks, the full extent of Milo's crimes came to light. He was arrested, his company crumbled, and his reputation was left in tatters. Meanwhile, my life blossomed. With the help of a financial advisor, I invested my inheritance wisely. I enrolled in business courses at the local college, determined to build a career of my own. Most importantly, I focused on healing and creating a stable, loving environment for Juniper. One evening, as I tucked Juniper into bed, she asked, "Mommy, are you happy now?" I smiled, kissing her forehead. "Yes, sweetheart.
I'm very happy.
Me too," she said, yawning. "I like it when you smile. You didn't smile much before." Her innocent observation brought tears to my eyes. "Well, we have a lot to smile about now. And I promise you, we always will." As I left her room, I paused in the hallway, overcome with emotion. The road to this point had been long and painful, but we had made it. Milo's shadow no longer loomed over us. For the first time in years, I felt truly alive, truly myself. The future stretched out before me, full of possibilities. I was Alara Blackwood, mother, survivor, and now, architect of my own destiny. Whatever challenges lay ahead, I knew I had the strength to face them. Because now, finally, I was free. The community center bustled with activity as I made my way through the crowded hallway. Colorful posters advertising various classes and support groups lined the walls. I paused in front of one that read, "Women's Empowerment Workshop," and smiled to myself. "Alara, there you are," called out Sarah, the center's coordinator. "We're all set up in room 3 for your session." I nodded, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. It had been 6 months since Milo's arrest, 6 months of rebuilding and rediscovering myself. Today marked a new chapter, my first time leading a support group for women leaving abusive relationships. As I entered the room, I was greeted by a circle of women, their faces a mixture of hope and apprehension. I recognized that look. I'd worn it myself not so long ago. "Good morning, everyone," I began, my voice steady. "I'm Alara, and I'm here to share my story with you. But more importantly, I'm here to listen to yours." Over the next hour, we talked, cried, and even laughed together. As I shared my journey, the manipulation, the fear, the moment I decided to take back control, I saw recognition in their eyes. When they shared their own stories, I felt a deep connection to each of them. "Remember," I said as our session wound down, "you are stronger than you know. Your worth isn't determined by anyone else. It comes from within." As the women filed out, many stopping to hug me or whisper thanks, I felt a sense of purpose I'd never experienced before. This was why I'd survived, why I'd fought so hard. Not just for myself and Juniper, but for all the women who needed to know they weren't alone. Outside the community center, I found my parents waiting with Juniper. My daughter ran to me, her face beaming. "Mommy, did you save all the ladies today?" she asked, her innocence making me smile. I knelt down to her level.
No, sweetheart.
"They're saving themselves. I'm just helping them remember how strong they are." Juniper nodded solemnly. "Like how you remembered?" "Exactly like that," I said, hugging her tightly. As we walked to the car, my father squeezed my shoulder. "I'm so proud of you, Alara," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "We both are," my mother added, her eyes shining. Back at my parents' house, our temporary home until the new apartment was ready, I sat on the porch, watching Juniper play in the yard. The late afternoon sun cast a golden glow over everything, reminding me of new beginnings. My phone buzzed with a text from Samantha Reed. Thought you'd want to know. Milo's sentencing is tomorrow. Looks like he'll be away for a long time. I took a deep breath, surprised by the lack of emotion I felt. Milo no longer held power over me, not even enough to evoke anger or satisfaction at his downfall. "Everything okay?" my mother asked, joining me on the porch. I showed her the text. "It's really over," I said softly.
She took my hand.
"It's been over for a while, sweetheart. This is just the final page of that chapter." I nodded, realizing she was right. I'd moved on long before this moment, had built a new life filled with purpose and joy. "Mom," I said, turning to her, "I've been thinking. I want to start a foundation to help women like me, women who need support to leave abusive situations." Her face lit up. "That's a wonderful idea, Elara. Your father and I will help in any way we can." As the sun began to set, Juniper ran up to us, breathless and grinning. "Mommy, Grandma, look what I found." She held up a small, white feather. "It's beautiful, darling," I said. "Do you know what they say about white feathers?" She shook her head, eyes wide with curiosity. "They say it's a sign of new beginnings and peace," I explained. "A reminder that we're on the right path." Juniper's face grew serious. "Is that our path now, Mommy? Peace and new beginnings?" I pulled her into my lap, holding her close. "Yes, sweetheart. That's exactly our path." As we sat there, the 3 generations of us together, I felt a profound sense of peace wash over me. The road had been long and painful, but it had led me here, to this moment of contentment and possibility. I thought about the women I'd met today, about the foundation I wanted to build, about the bright future ahead for Juniper and me. For the first time in years, I felt truly, completely free. The shadows of the past no longer haunted me. Instead, I looked forward to tomorrow with hope and excitement. I was Elara Blackwood, survivor, mother, advocate. And my story was far from over. As the last rays of sunlight painted the sky in brilliant hues of orange and pink, I made a silent vow to always remember my strength, to never lose sight of my worth, and to use my experiences to light the way for others. This wasn't just an ending. It was a beginning of a life reclaimed, of dreams reborn, of a future filled with endless possibilities. And I was ready for every moment of it. "Daphne, you need to understand, I just borrowed it. You and Elliot are doing so well. I thought it wouldn't matter." Mabel's voice was dismissive, leaving my heart pounding with disbelief. I gripped the phone tighter, my knuckles turning white. "Borrowed? Mabel, you took $30,000 from our joint savings without asking. That's not borrowing, that's stealing." "Don't be so dramatic," Mabel scoffed. "It's family money. I'm sure Elliot wouldn't mind." "It's not just Elliot's money," I snapped. "It's our money, mine and his. We worked hard for it." "Oh, please," Mabel said, her tone dripping with disdain. "As if designing pretty little trinkets is real work." I took a deep breath, trying to calm the rage building inside me. "Mabel, I want that money back in our account by the end of the week." "Or what?" she challenged. "You'll tell Elliot? Go ahead. He'll understand. He knows how much I've sacrificed for him." The line went dead. I stared at the phone, my hands shaking. "My name is Daphne, and I just discovered my mother-in-law has been stealing from us." I paced the living room, my mind racing. How long had this been going on? What else had she taken? And how was I going to tell Elliot? The front door opened, and Elliot walked in, his suit jacket slung over his shoulder. "Hey, honey, how was your day?" I turned to face him, my stomach in knots. "Elliot, we need to talk. It's about your mother." His face immediately clouded with concern. "What's wrong? Is she okay?" "She's fine," I said, my voice tight. "But our bank account isn't. She took $30,000 from our savings." Elliot's eyes widened.
"What?"
"There must be some mistake." "There's no mistake," I said, pulling out my phone to show him the transaction. I just got off the phone with her. She admitted it. Elliot's face paled as he looked at the screen.
I
can't believe this. Why would she do that? She said she was borrowing it. I said, unable to keep the bitterness from my voice. Because we're doing so well. Elliot ran a hand through his hair, looking lost. Maybe she just needs some help. We should talk to her, see what's going on. I stared at him in disbelief. Elliot, she stole from us. This isn't about helping her, it's about protecting ourselves. She's my mother, Daphne, Elliot said, his voice rising. I can't just turn my back on her. And I'm your wife, I shot back. Don't I matter too? Elliot's face softened. Of course you do. I need to talk to her. Figure out what's going on. I watched as he pulled out his phone, dialing Mabel's number. My heart sank as I realized this was going to be harder than I thought. Mom, Elliot said, his voice gentle. Can you come over? We need to talk. An hour later, Mabel swept into our living room, all designer clothes and expensive perfume. She kissed Elliot on the cheek before turning to me with a cold smile. Daphne, dear, I hear you've been making quite a fuss. I bit back a retort, letting Elliot take the lead. He sat down across from Mabel, his face serious. Mom, we need to talk about the money you took from our account. Mabel waved a hand dismissively.
Oh, that.
I told Daphne it's just a loan. I'll pay it back. When? I asked, unable to stay silent. And why didn't you ask us first? Mabel's eyes narrowed. I didn't think I needed permission to help myself to family money. It's not family money, I said, my voice rising. It's mine and Elliot's. We earned it. Daphne, Elliot said, his tone warning. He turned back to Mabel. Mom, we're happy to help if you need it, but you can't just take money without asking. We have bills to pay, a business to run. Mabel's lower lip trembled. I thought you'd understand, Elliot. After everything I've done for you. I watched in disbelief as Elliot's resolve visibly weakened. He reached out, taking Mabel's hand. Of course I understand, but we need to set some boundaries. Can you pay the money back? Mabel sniffed, dabbing at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. I'm not sure. Things have been so difficult lately. I couldn't take it anymore. Difficult? Mabel, you're wearing a $5,000 handbag. You just got back from a cruise. How is that difficult? Mabel's face hardened. I don't think that's any of your business, Daphne. It became my business when you stole from us, I snapped. Daphne, please, Elliot said, his voice strained. He turned back to Mabel. Mom, we need that money back.
Can you sell something?
Maybe cut back on expenses for a while. Mabel's eyes filled with tears. You'd ask your own mother to sell her things? To live like a pauper? I watched in growing frustration as Elliot faltered, caught between his mother's manipulation and his duty to our marriage. It was clear this was just the beginning of a much bigger problem. As Mabel continued to play the victim and Elliot struggled to find a middle ground, I made a silent vow. I would protect what we'd built, no matter the cost. If Mabel wanted a fight, she'd get one. And I intended to win. I stared at the computer screen, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. The design for our new collection was almost complete, but something felt off. I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that had been haunting me since Mabel's loan incident. Hey, Daph. Elliot called from the doorway of our home office. How's it coming along? I forced a smile. Almost there. Just tweaking a few details. Elliot walked over, resting his hands on my shoulders. It looks amazing. You've really outdone yourself this time. His praise should have filled me with pride, but instead, I felt a twinge of resentment. Ever since Elliot had left his corporate job to join my jewelry business, the lines between our personal and professional lives had blurred. Thanks, I said, trying to keep the tension out of my voice. How are the financials looking? Elliot's hand stiffened on my shoulders. About that, I've been thinking. Maybe we should consider giving my mom a small stipend. To help her out. I swiveled in my chair to face him. Elliot, are you serious? After what she did. He ran a hand through his hair, a nervous habit I'd come to recognize. I know, but she's still my mother, and she did raise me on her own. She raised you on your father's life insurance, I reminded him gently. And now she's trying to live off our hard work. Elliot's face clouded. That's not fair, Daphne. She's made mistakes, but… Mistakes? I interrupted, my voice rising. She stole from us, Elliot. And now you want to reward her for it. He stepped back, his expression hardening. I'm not rewarding her. I'm trying to help her. I stood up, needing to feel on equal footing. And what about helping us? Our business? Our future? That's what I'm doing, Elliot insisted. If we help her now, maybe she'll stop asking for more later. I laughed bitterly. You really believe that? Elliot, giving her money is like feeding a stray cat. She'll just keep coming back for more. His eyes flashed with anger. Don't talk about my mother like that. We stood there, the tension crackling between us. This wasn't just about Mabel anymore. It was about us, our partnership, our marriage. I need some air, I said finally, grabbing my jacket. I'm going for a walk. I didn't wait for his response, just headed out the door and into the cool evening air. My feet carried me to the nearby park, where I found a bench and sat down heavily. How had we gotten here? When Elliot first joined the business, it had seemed like a dream come true. My creative vision, his business acumen, we were unstoppable. But now, with Mabel's constant interference and Elliot's divided loyalties, everything felt off balance. My phone buzzed. A text from Clara. Hey girl, haven't heard from you in a while. Everything okay? I hesitated, then typed back. Not really. Can we meet for coffee tomorrow? Her response was immediate. Absolutely. 10 a.m. at our usual spot. See you there, I replied, feeling a small sense of relief. At least I had someone to talk to who wasn't caught in this mess. As I walked home, my mind raced with possibilities. We needed to set clear boundaries, not just with Mabel, but between our personal and professional lives. And I needed to take control of our finances before things spiraled further. Elliot was in the living room when I returned, his laptop open on the coffee table. He looked up as I entered, his expression guarded. Hey. Hey, I replied, shrugging off my jacket. We need to talk. He nodded, closing his laptop. I know. I'm sorry about earlier. I shouldn't have sprung that on you like that. I sat down next to him, taking a deep breath. Elliot, I love you. And I love our business. But we can't keep going like this. What do you mean? He asked, his brow furrowing. I mean, we need clear boundaries, I explained. Between work and home. Between us and your mother. We need to protect what we've built. Elliot was quiet for a moment, then nodded slowly. You're right. I know you're right. It's hard, you know? Balancing everything. I took his hand, squeezing it gently. I know. But we're in this together, right? Partners in everything. He smiled, some of the tension leaving his face. Always. Good, I said, feeling more resolved than I had in weeks. Because I have some ideas about how we can move forward, starting with separate accounts for personal and business expenses. Elliot's eyebrows rose. You really think that's necessary? I do, I said firmly. We need to be able to track everything, especially with the business growing. And it'll make it easier to set limits on outside expenses. He caught my meaning, nodding slowly. Okay, let's do it. What else? As we talked into the night, hashing out plans and setting new ground rules, I felt a glimmer of hope. We could get through this as long as we stood united. But as I drifted off to sleep that night, a small voice in the back of my mind whispered a warning. This was just the beginning. Mabel wouldn't give up so easily, and our resolve would be tested again and again. I was ready for the fight. The question was, would Elliot stand with me when it really counted? The doorbell rang, its chime echoing through our house like a warning. I glanced at Elliot, who was engrossed in his laptop, before heading to answer myself. I opened the door to find Mabel standing there, decked out in a designer outfit that probably cost more than our monthly mortgage payment. Daphne, darling, she cooed, air-kissing my cheeks. I hope I'm not interrupting anything important. Actually, we're quite busy. I started, but Mabel had already brushed past me into the house. "Elliot, sweetheart," she called out. "Your mother needs a favor." I followed her into the living room, my stomach knotting with dread. Elliot looked up from his work, his expression a mix of surprise and wariness. "Mom, what are you doing here?" Mabel perched on the edge of our sofa, her perfectly manicured hands clasped in her lap. "Well, you see, there's this wonderful charity gala coming up next month. All the most influential people in the city will be there. I simply must attend." But what, Mom?" Elliot asked, his voice tight. "Well, I need a new dress, of course. And shoes. And perhaps a little something from your lovely jewelry line, Daphne dear. It would be such marvelous publicity for you both." I felt my blood pressure rising. "Mabel, we've talked about this. We can't keep—" "Oh, don't be so stingy," Mabel interrupted, waving a dismissive hand. "It's not as if you can't afford it. And really, it's an investment in your future. Think of the connections I could make for you at this gala." Elliot shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "Mom, we've set up some new financial boundaries. We can't just—" "Boundaries?" Mabel's voice took on a shrill edge. "Is that what she's calling it?" She turned to me, her eyes narrowing. "I suppose you think you're very clever, turning my own son against me." "That's not what this is about," I said, fighting to keep my voice level. "We're trying to run a business here, Mabel. We can't keep dipping into our funds for personal expenses." Mabel's lip curled in disdain. "Personal expenses? I'm talking about networking, about building your brand. But I suppose you wouldn't understand that, would you? You're just a small-time designer who got lucky." "Mom," Elliot's voice was sharp. "That's enough. Daphne has worked incredibly hard to build this business." "And you've worked hard too, darling," Mabel said, her tone softening as she turned to Elliot. "You both deserve to enjoy the fruits of your labor. What's the point of all this success if you can't indulge a little?" I watched as Elliot's resolve wavered. Maybe we could spare a little for the dress," he said hesitantly. "Elliot, no," I said firmly. "We agreed on this. We can't keep enabling her." Mabel's face darkened. "Enabling? Is that what you think this is?" "I'm not some addict, Daphne. I'm family. But I suppose you wouldn't understand that concept, would you? Always so cold, so calculating." "That's rich, coming from you," I snapped, my patience finally breaking. "You're the one who's been calculating how to squeeze every last penny out of us." "How dare you?" Mabel gasped, clutching her pearls dramatically. "Elliot, are you going to let her speak to me like this?" Elliot looked between us, his face a mask of anguish. I think you should go, Mom. We can talk about this another time." Mabel stood, drawing herself up to her full height. "I see. Well, I hope you're happy, Daphne. You've finally gotten what you wanted. My own son," turning his back on me. As she stormed out, slamming the door behind her, I turned to Elliot. "I'm sorry, but we had to stand firm." He nodded, looking drained. "I know. It's hard." I sat beside him, taking his hand. "I understand, but we're doing the right thing." Later that evening, as I was checking our business email, I saw a message from Elliot's cousin, Sarah. Curious, I opened it. "Daphne, I hope this email finds you well. I wanted to reach out because I've been hearing some concerning things from Aunt Mabel. She says you've been controlling Elliot's finances and cutting her off completely. I know it's none of my business, but I'm worried about the family dynamic. Is everything okay?" I stared at the screen, my hands shaking with anger. So this was Mabel's game now? Spreading rumors, trying to turn the family against me? I called out to Elliot, my voice tight with fury. "You need to see this. Your mother's been busy." As Elliot read the email, his face grew pale. "I can't believe she'd do this." "Can't you?" I asked bitterly. "She's trying to paint me as the villain, Elliot. She's manipulating everyone, including you." He looked at me, his eyes filled with a mix of sadness and determination. "Not anymore. I'm done letting her come between us. We need to set the record straight with the family." I nodded, feeling a glimmer of hope. "Together?" "Together," he agreed, squeezing my hand. As we sat down to craft a response to Sarah and plan our next moves, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. Mabel had underestimated us, thinking she could drive a wedge between us. But she'd only succeeded in bringing us closer together. This battle was far from over, but for the first time in weeks, I felt like we might actually win. The email from Gideon, our business mentor, landed in my inbox with a soft ping. I opened it, my heart racing as I scanned the contents. Daphne, Elliot, it read, "I have exciting news. A major retailer in Paris is interested in carrying your line. They want to meet with you both next month to discuss terms. This could be the international break you've been waiting for." I called out to Elliot, who was in the kitchen. "Elliot, come here, quick." He rushed in, a dish towel still in his hands. "What is it? Is everything okay?" I turned the screen towards him, grinning. "Read this. Gideon's lined up a meeting in Paris. This could be huge for us." Elliot's eyes widened as he read, a slow smile spreading across his face. "Paris? Daphne, this is incredible." We hugged, both of us giddy with excitement. For a moment, all the stress of the past few weeks melted away. This was what we'd been working towards, a chance to take our business to the next level. "We need to start planning," I said, already reaching for my notebook. "Flights, hotel, samples to bring." Elliot's smile faltered slightly.
What about Mom?
"She's going to flip when she hears about this." I felt a twinge of irritation. "Elliot, this isn't about your mother. This is about our business, our future." He nodded, but I could see the conflict in his eyes. I know. It's just, she's been having a hard time lately. Maybe we could." "No." I cut him off firmly. "We are not bringing her into this. She'll find a way to make it all about her, just like she always does." Elliot sighed, running a hand through his hair. "You're right. I'll talk to her, explain that this is a business trip." I squeezed his hand, trying to recapture our earlier excitement. "This is our moment, Elliot. Let's not let anything spoil it." Over the next few days, we threw ourselves into preparations. I spent hours selecting the perfect pieces to showcase, while Elliot pored over financial projections and marketing strategies. We were so focused that we almost forgot about the Mabel situation. Almost. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon. I was in the middle of packing some samples when my phone rang. Elliot's name flashed on the screen. "Hey, how'd the meeting go?" I asked, knowing he'd been out with a potential local investor. His voice was tight when he answered. "It went fine. But, Daphne, we have a problem. Mom found out about Paris." My stomach dropped.
How?
"I don't know. She must have overheard me talking to someone. She showed up at the cafe where I was meeting the investor, making a scene about how we're abandoning her." I closed my eyes, trying to keep my temper in check. "What did you tell her?" I tried to explain that it was a business trip, but she wouldn't listen. "She's insisting on coming with us." "Absolutely not," I snapped. "Elliot, you can't be serious." I know, he said, sounding defeated. "But she's threatening to tell everyone that we're leaving her destitute, that we're using the business to cut her out of the family fortune." I laughed bitterly. "What fortune? The money she's been leeching off us?" "Daphne, please," Elliot pleaded. "I don't know what to do." I took a deep breath, trying to think rationally. "We need to stand firm on this, Elliot. If we give in now, she'll never stop." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "You're right," he said finally. "I'll talk to her again. Make it clear that this isn't up for discussion." After we hung up, I sat down heavily on the bed, surrounded by half-packed suitcases. This should have been a joyous time, full of anticipation for our big opportunity. Instead, it felt tainted by Mabel's constant interference. I picked up my phone again, dialing Clara's number. I needed a friendly ear, someone outside the situation who could offer some perspective. "Clara? It's me.
Got a minute?"
As I poured out the whole story to my friend, I felt some of the tension leaving my body. Clara listened patiently, then offered her advice. "Daphne, honey, you need to focus on what's important here. This Paris deal could change everything for you and Elliot. Don't let Mabel derail that." "But how do we stop her?" I asked, feeling helpless. "You stand your ground," Clara said firmly. "Both of you, united front. Make it clear that this is non-negotiable." After we hung up, I felt more resolved. Clara was right. We couldn't let Mabel's drama overshadow this opportunity. When Elliot got home that evening, I was waiting for him in the living room. "We need to talk," I said, patting the seat next to me on the couch. He sat down, looking wary. "About Mom?" I nodded. "About Mom, about Paris, about our future. Elliot, we can't keep letting her control our lives like this." He sighed, rubbing his face.
I know.
"You're right. But what do we do?" I took his hand, squeezing it gently. "We stand together. We tell her in no uncertain terms that she's not coming to Paris, and that if she continues to spread lies about us, we'll have no choice but to cut ties completely." Elliot looked at me, a mix of fear and determination in his eyes. "Okay," he said softly. "Okay, let's do it." As we sat there, planning our confrontation with Mabel, I felt a glimmer of hope. Whatever came next, at least we were facing it together. The envelope arrived on a Tuesday, innocuous and unassuming. I almost tossed it with the junk mail, but something made me pause. The return address was unfamiliar, a law firm I'd never heard of. "Elliot," I called out, my voice tight with apprehension. "You need to see this." He appeared from his home office, brow furrowed at my tone. "What is it?" I handed him the envelope. "It's addressed to both of us." We sat at the kitchen table as Elliot carefully opened it. His face paled as he scanned the contents. It's a notice of pending legal action against us for elder financial abuse." The room spun.
What?
"That's ridiculous. Who would?" But I knew the answer before I finished the question. "Mabel." Elliot nodded grimly. "She's claiming we've been systematically draining her accounts, manipulating her into giving us money." I laughed bitterly. "That's rich, coming from her. We need to call our lawyer." As Elliot made the call, I paced the kitchen, my mind racing. How had it come to this? And more importantly, how far was Mabel willing to go? Our lawyer, Sarah, arrived within the hour. As we explained the situation, her face grew increasingly grave. "This is serious," she said, leafing through the documents. "These allegations, if proven, could not only damage your reputation but potentially your business as well." "But they're lies." I exploded. "We have bank statements, records of every transaction. We can prove she's the one who's been taking from us." Sarah held up a hand. "I believe you, Daphne. But we need to approach this carefully. Mabel's playing a dangerous game, and we need to make sure we have all our ducks in a row." As Sarah outlined our options, a thought nagged at me. How had Mabel afforded a lawyer? Last we knew, she was practically begging us for money. "Elliot," I interrupted, "did your mother ever mention any other sources of income? Investments, maybe?" He shook his head, looking puzzled. "No, why?" I turned to Sarah. "Is there any way we can look into Mabel's finances? I have a feeling there's more going on here than we know." Sarah nodded slowly. "We can request financial disclosures as part of the legal process. It might give us a clearer picture of what we're dealing with." After Sarah left, Elliot and I sat in stunned silence. Our Paris trip, once a beacon of hope, now felt like a distant dream. "I can't believe she'd do this," Elliot murmured, his voice thick with emotion. "My own mother." I reached across the table, squeezing his hand. "We'll get through this, Elliot. We have the truth on our side." The next few days were a blur of legal consultations and frantic phone calls. We had to postpone our Paris meeting, explaining the situation to a very understanding Gideon. But as we dug deeper into Mabel's finances, a disturbing pattern emerged. "Look at this," I said, pointing to a series of transactions on my laptop screen. Large deposits, always just under the reporting threshold. And look at the dates. They coincide with her biggest demands for money from us. Elliot leaned in, his face a mask of confusion. But where is this money coming from? And if she had it, why was she always asking us for more? A sickening realization dawned on me. "Elliot, what if she's involved in something illegal? Money laundering, maybe?" He recoiled, as if I'd slapped him.
No.
"No, that's impossible. My mother wouldn't." "Wouldn't she?" I pressed. "Think about it. The constant need for cash, the lavish spending, the way she always seemed to bounce back no matter how much she claimed to be struggling. Elliot stood abruptly, pacing the room. This is crazy. We can't accuse my mother of being a criminal. We might not have a choice, I said softly. If we don't get to the bottom of this, she could destroy everything we've built. As the weight of the situation settled over us, I felt a steely resolve forming in my gut. Mabel had pushed us too far this time. It was time to fight back. I picked up my phone, dialing Clara's number. Clara? It's me. I need a favor. You still have that contact in the financial crimes unit, right? Elliot's head snapped up, his eyes wide. Daphne, what are you doing? I met his gaze, unflinching. What we should have done a long time ago. We're going to find out exactly what your mother's been up to, and we're going to put a stop to it. As I explained the situation to Clara, I saw the conflict warring in Elliot's eyes. But beneath the pain and confusion, there was something else. A glimmer of determination. Okay, he said quietly as I hung up.
Okay.
Let's do this. But Daphne, if we go down this road, there's no going back. Are you sure? I took his hand, squeezing it tightly. I'm sure. Whatever happens, we face it together. As we settled in to wait for Clara's call back, I felt a mix of dread and anticipation. We were about to uncover the truth about Mabel, for better or worse. And nothing would ever be the same again. The drive to Mabel's house felt like the longest 30 minutes of my life. Elliot sat beside me, his jaw clenched, knuckles white on the steering wheel. The file from Clara's contact in the financial crimes unit lay heavy in my lap, a damning compilation of evidence we could no longer ignore. Are you sure about this? Elliot asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I reached over, squeezing his arm. We have to do this, Elliot. For us, for the business, for everything we've worked for. He nodded, eyes fixed on the road ahead. As we pulled into Mabel's driveway, I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the confrontation to come. Mabel answered the door in a silk robe, surprise flickering across her face. Elliot? Daphne? What are you doing here? We need to talk, Mom, Elliot said, his voice firm. Can we come in? She hesitated for a moment before stepping aside. As we entered her lavishly decorated living room, I couldn't help but notice the new artwork on the walls, the gleaming crystal vase on the coffee table. More evidence of her inexplicable wealth. What's this about? Mabel asked, perching on the edge of an armchair. If it's about that silly legal misunderstanding. It's not a misunderstanding, I interrupted, my patience wearing thin. And I think you know that. Mabel's eyes narrowed. I don't know what you're implying, Daphne, but I don't appreciate your tone. Elliot stepped forward, placing a hand on my shoulder. Mom, we know about the money, the deposits, the laundering, all of it. The color drained from Mabel's face. I don't know what you're talking about. I opened the file, spreading documents across the coffee table. Bank statements, transaction records, even surveillance photos of Mabel meeting with known criminals. It's all here, Mabel. Every lie, every scheme. For a moment, Mabel seemed to deflate, the carefully crafted facade crumbling. Then, like a cornered animal, she lashed out. So, what if it is? You think you're so perfect, don't you? Little Miss Self-Made, with your precious jewelry business. You have no idea what it's like to struggle, to fight for every scrap. Mom, stop, Elliot pleaded, but Mabel was on a roll. I did what I had to do to survive, to give Elliot the life he deserved. And now you want to take it all away. She turned to Elliot, eyes brimming with tears. Are you going to let her do this to me? Your own mother? I watched Elliot, my heart pounding. This was the moment of truth, the crossroads we'd been hurtling towards for months. Elliot took a deep breath, his voice steady. Mom, what you've done, it's wrong. It's illegal. And it has to stop. Mabel recoiled as if she'd been slapped. You're choosing her over me? After everything I've sacrificed for you. This isn't about choosing sides, Elliot said, his voice cracking. It's about doing what's right. We can't keep enabling this behavior. It has to end. Mabel's face contorted with rage. You ungrateful little. She lunged for the file, scattering papers across the room. I jumped to my feet, grabbing her wrists. Mabel, stop. This isn't just about us anymore. The authorities know. If you don't come clean now, it'll only be worse when they come for you. She wrenched away from me, stumbling back. Get out. Both of you. Get out of my house. Elliot stepped forward, his face a mask of pain. Mom, please. Let us help you. We can find a way through this, but you have to be honest. For a moment, I saw a flicker of something in Mabel's eyes. Regret? Fear? But it was quickly replaced by cold fury. I don't need your help. I've managed just fine on my own all these years. And I'll continue to do so. Even if it means losing your son? I asked quietly. Mabel's gaze snapped to mine, then to Elliot. The silence stretched between us, heavy with unspoken words and shattered trust. Finally, Elliot spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. Mom, this is your last chance. Come clean. Let us help you make this right.
Or
what? Mabel sneered. You'll turn me in? Your own mother? Elliot's shoulders sagged. If that's what it takes to protect our family, our business, yes. The finality in his voice seemed to hit Mabel like a physical blow. She sank onto the couch, suddenly looking every one of her years. Get out, she whispered. Just get out. As we left, I glanced back to see Mabel hunched over, her face in her hands. For a moment, I felt a pang of sympathy. But then I remembered everything she'd done. Every lie, every manipulation, and my resolve hardened. In the car, Elliot sat motionless, staring at nothing. I reached over, taking his hand. You did the right thing, I said softly. He nodded, squeezing my hand. I know, but it doesn't make it any easier. As we drove home, the weight of what had just happened settled over us. We'd confronted Mabel, drawn our line in the sand. But the battle was far from over. The real test was yet to come. The silence in our home was deafening. Elliot sat at the kitchen table, staring blankly at the untouched cup of coffee in front of him. I watched him from the doorway, my heart aching. It had been 3 days since our confrontation with Mabel, and the weight of his decision hung heavy in the air. Elliot, I said softly, moving to sit beside him. We need to talk about what happens next. He looked up, his eyes red-rimmed from lack of sleep. What is there to talk about? I've cut ties with my own mother. I've chosen our business, our future, over her. Isn't that enough? I reached out, taking his hand. It's not about what's enough. It's about protecting ourselves, our livelihood. We need to make this official. Elliot's brow furrowed. Official? What do you mean? I took a deep breath. I've been talking to our lawyer. She thinks we should file a restraining order against Mabel to protect our assets, our reputation. Elliot jerked his hand away as if I'd burned him. A restraining order? Against my mother? Daphne, that's too far. Is it? I pressed. After everything she's done? The theft, the lies, the threats to our business. He stood abruptly, pacing the kitchen. She's still my mother, Daphne. I can't just erase her from our lives completely. I felt my frustration rising. Elliot, she's made her choice. She chose her schemes over us. We have to protect ourselves. By legally banishing her? Elliot's voice rose. Do you have any idea what that would do to her? To our family? Our family? I stood, facing him. Elliot, we're the family now. You and me. Our business, our future. That's what we need to protect. The doorbell rang, cutting through the tension. We both froze, exchanging wary glances. I moved to answer it, Elliot close behind. I opened the door to find Mabel standing there, looking smaller and more fragile than I'd ever seen her. Can I come in? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I hesitated, looking to Elliot. He nodded, his face a mask of conflicting emotions. Mabel settled onto our couch, her hands twisting in her lap. I've been doing a lot of thinking, she began. About what you said, about the choices I've made. I sat across from her. Elliot perched on the arm of my chair. We waited in tense silence for her to continue. I've made a mess of things, Mabel admitted, her voice cracking. I never meant for it to go this far. It started small, a little extra cash here and there. But then it grew, and I couldn't stop. I didn't want to stop. Elliot leaned forward. Why, Mom? Why did you do it? Mabel's eyes filled with tears. I was scared, Elliot. Scared of being left behind, of becoming irrelevant. I saw you and Daphne, so successful, so happy. I wanted to be part of that. I thought if I had money, if I could keep up with your lifestyle, you'd still need me. The room fell silent as her words sank in. I felt a mix of pity and anger swirling in my chest. That doesn't excuse what you did, I said finally. The lies, the manipulation, the threats to our business. Mabel nodded, wiping at her eyes. I know it doesn't. That's why I'm here. I've turned myself in. Elliot gasped. What? I went to the police this morning, Mabel explained. I told them everything. About the money laundering, the fraud, all of it. They're probably searching my house right now. I sat back, stunned. This was the last thing I'd expected. Elliot knelt in front of his mother, taking her hands. Mom, why? Why now? Mabel looked at him, then at me. Because I realized what I was about to lose. My son, my family. I couldn't bear it. I'd rather face the consequences of my actions than lose you both forever. I felt tears pricking at my eyes. Despite everything, I couldn't help but be moved by her admission. What happens now? I asked, my voice hoarse. Mabel straightened her shoulders. Now I face the music. I'll probably go to jail, at least for a while. But before that happens, I wanted to come here. To apologize to both of you. And to ask if there's any chance you could forgive me. Not now, maybe not for a long time. But someday. Elliot looked at me, his eyes pleading. I took a deep breath, weighing everything we'd been through against this moment of vulnerability. It won't be easy, I said slowly. There's a lot of hurt, a lot of mistrust to overcome. But if you're truly committed to making amends, to changing, maybe we can start to rebuild. Slowly. Elliot's face lit up with relief and gratitude. He squeezed my hand before turning back to Mabel. We'll take it one day at a time, Mom. Together. As Mabel broke down in tears, Elliot enveloping her in a hug, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The road ahead would be long and difficult, but for the first time in months, I felt a glimmer of hope. We had faced our toughest challenge and come out stronger. Whatever came next, we would face it as a united front. The Parisian sun streamed through the windows of our hotel room, casting a warm glow on the scattered jewelry samples and business documents strewn across the bed. I stood at the window, taking in the view of the Eiffel Tower in the distance, a sight that still felt surreal after all we'd been through to get here. Daphne? Elliot's voice pulled me from my reverie. The car's here. Are you ready? I turned to face him, smoothing down my blazer. As ready as I'll ever be. This is it, Elliot. Everything we've worked for. He crossed the room, taking my hands in his. We've got this. Together. The drive to the headquarters of Maison Lumière, one of France's most prestigious jewelry retailers, was a blur of nervous anticipation. As we entered the sleek, modern building, I felt a flutter of anxiety in my stomach. Mr. and Mrs. Pearson, a smartly dressed woman, approached us. I'm Sophie Dubois, head of acquisitions. We're delighted to have you here. The meeting room was intimidating, all glass and chrome, with a view of the Paris skyline that threatened to distract me from the task at hand. But as soon as we began our presentation, everything else faded away. This was our moment, our chance to take our small business global. I watched the faces of the executives as Elliot walked them through our business plan, saw their eyes light up as I unveiled our latest designs. When we finished, there was a moment of silence that felt like an eternity. Finally, Monsieur Lefebvre, the CEO, spoke. Madame et Monsieur Pearson, we are most impressed. Your designs are fresh, innovative, yet with a timeless quality that aligns perfectly with our brand. We would be honored to feature your collection in our stores. The rest of the meeting passed in a whirlwind of handshakes, contract discussions, and champagne toasts. As we left the building, I felt lightheaded with joy and disbelief. We did it. Elliot whispered, pulling me close. We really did it. That evening, as we celebrated over dinner at a small bistro, my phone buzzed with a text. It was from Clara. How did it go? The suspense is killing me. I smiled, quickly typing back. We got the deal. Call you tomorrow with details. Give Gideon a hug from us. As I put my phone away, Elliot reached across the table, taking my hand. I couldn't have done this without you, Daphne. Through everything, the business struggles, the issues with Mom, you've been my rock. I squeezed his hand, feeling a lump form in my throat. We did this together, Elliot. As a team. His face grew serious. Speaking of Mom, I got an email from her lawyer today. I felt a flicker of anxiety. Oh, what did it say? She's completed her first month of mandated therapy. The lawyer says she's making progress, really confronting her issues. Elliot paused, his eyes searching mine. She's asked if we might consider visiting when we get back. I took a deep breath, considering my words carefully. How do you feel about that? Elliot sighed. Honestly, I'm not sure. Part of me wants to believe she's changed, that we can rebuild some kind of relationship. But another part is scared of getting hurt again. I finished for him. He nodded. Exactly. I thought about Mabel, about all the pain and chaos she'd caused. But I also thought about her vulnerability that day in our living room, her willingness to face the consequences of her actions. Maybe, I said slowly, we can take it one step at a time. Set clear boundaries, but leave the door open for healing. If she's genuinely committed to change, we can be there to support that journey. Elliot's eyes welled with tears. You'd be willing to do that? After everything? I reached up, cupping his cheek. For you, for us, yes. We're stronger together now. We can face anything, even this. As we walked back to our hotel that night, hand in hand under the twinkling lights of Paris, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. We'd weathered the storm, emerged stronger, and now stood on the brink of a new chapter in our lives. The next morning, as we packed for our flight home, Elliot paused, a thoughtful expression on his face. With this deal, we could afford to move, get a bigger place, maybe even start thinking about a family. I finished, a smile spreading across my face. He nodded, looking both excited and nervous. Is that something you'd want? I crossed the room, wrapping my arms around him. With you? Absolutely. As we left the hotel, stepping out into the bustling streets of Paris, I felt a surge of excitement for the future. We had faced our toughest challenges and come out stronger. Our business was thriving, our relationship was solid, and even the complicated dynamics with Mabel held the potential for healing. Whatever came next, expanding our business, starting a family, rebuilding relationships, we would face it together. We had learned the hard way that trust, communication, and unwavering support for each other were the foundations of both a successful partnership and a thriving business. As we hailed a taxi to the airport, I took one last look at the city that had marked the beginning of our new chapter. The road ahead might not always be smooth, but I knew that together, Elliot and I could handle whatever life threw our way. Our journey had taught us that true strength lies not in avoiding challenges, but in facing them head-on, with love, understanding, and an unbreakable bond. And that, I realized, was the most precious jewel of all.